All right, folks, welcome to Night 2 E3 2013 Giant Bomb After Hours. I'm Ryan Davis. I've got Jeff Gerstmann here in the Giant Bomb precinct number 247.
I was on the phone.
That phone doesn't even, that's not connected to anything. This Bell South phone doesn't go anywhere.
It's wireless.
It certainly is.
Before it was cool.
Patrick Klepek's here as well. Officer Klepek to you and me. And we've got special guests, Mr. Cliff Blazinski to my back,
guys?
and then to my left, Mr. Jonathan Blow.
Hello.
In the most conventional roundtable discussion setup possible.
That's right, yeah. We moved a lot of furniture around, took a lot of considerations into how we wanted to set. I want to have a casual conversation. I like a good swivel. So
Here in the precinct, it's a solved crime. Sometimes the best parts of it.
you're hanging out in the
Talking
bullpen
it
with the
out,
other
talking
officers.
it out.
How many of the users do you think know what this is?
I'm gonna say probably most of them.
Okay.
It's a business card from Office Depot.
There you go. That's a coaster.
There you go.
By the way, these guys ambushed me with John being here. I didn't even know he was going to be here, so
No.
we watched for him to say something entirely more intelligent than me.
John, do it. Let's hear it.
I-
How far can you go to pi?
3.
Nobody's going to Wait, did you bring that up separately? Because we were just talking about that like 2 seconds ago.
I was just using that as the jumping off
Okay,
point.
great.
That was entirely deliberate there.
All
So, Cliff, I feel like it's like a weird E3 not having you on a stage spitting game.
Well, yeah, because I actually would have read the PR summary handbook that was handed out, so I'd have consistent answers with the other executives.
Instead, you're
We're
here.
very excited about the possibilities of these new
Or
platforms.
learn how to say we're not answering that right now.
Yeah.
I know a lot of those guys over there, but it's just like, dude, you're the one really controlling the interview at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Say, like, we're not answering that at this time. And if it's Keeley and he presses, because Keeley's the fucking honey badger, just tell him no.
Yeah.
That's all you have to do, man. So it's like
yeah,
amateur hour out there.
So yeah, what is that your feeling about just kind of how Microsoft's been handling stuff here? You have your relationship goes back far, so I don't want to.
Well, first off, I
put you
don't
on the
fucking
spot
hate
here
Sony,
necessarily.
right? I love my PlayStation, right?
Yeah.
But, people have a right to not buy it, right? They just love dogpiling on things, right? And, I honestly, I know there's a lot of people out there with spotty internet connections, or they might be in rural areas and dial-up, but most of the people in my life I know have broadband on their Xbox, and play Xbox Live, and they're targeting that future, and so I think it looks like a really good console. I think the problem is that both consoles are going to be fucking great, and I'll be over here in my PC with my Oculus Rift.
No one else has anyone else confirmed Oculus Rift support?
No,
Sony's playing with it.
Sony's not denying it. They're kind of being a little coy.
Well, they have the high-res one at the show here, and
Right.
I want to see
Yeah.
it in high-res.
Yeah.
It's supposed
Right,
to be,
they're running at 1080p.
yeah, they got the Unreal Engine 4 stuff in there, apparently. So, it's supposed
So
to
what
be
are you
cool.
up to, man? What are you doing at the show?
Hanging out, trolling Twitter.
Yeah.
Got a meeting here, meeting there. Actually, just flew in from New York. Got to go to the Man of Steel premiere, which was pretty fucking cool. And honestly, spending some time at the beach and reading a little bit. And, while the usual Game of Thrones, not reading the books, watching it. And loving life. I started working when I was a kid, man.
Yeah.
And right now, like, to jump back in tomorrow, with it being as it is right now, would be, like, the biggest mistake possible.
Right.
Because it's all up in the air, right? Like, say if I decided to do something with Sony and Microsoft wins, then I'm fucked, or vice versa, right? So, what's up, guys?
Hey, Harmonix in the house.
What up?
Go change into your shower clothes, John Drake.
I'll do it.
I didn't just. Did I stutter?
Scrubs are in the back.
Run my suit. Let's do this shit.
No,
One,
we're
John?
good. We're good, Eric.
All right, fine.
Thanks, though.
That's my idea.
So yeah, like this has to be your all of the E3s, right? You've been to each one. I imagine.
Basically, since Atlanta and all that stuff,
Yeah.
right? But basically, when it was CES, even, right? Every year, have not missed one. And but honestly, and I've said this online, the best way to experience this is to get like guys like you to write the whole fucking thing up for us and watch a video online. Like the show floor,
Yeah, I was gonna say we're done writing. I don't even know how keyboards work.
We do this. There it is. Enhance.
I just put this microphone on and go. "Die."
But the show floor just
Video
it looks like the biggest shit show, and I'm like, I'd rather be at PAX now,
So Jonathan, we were talking about this a little earlier. Obviously, not your first rodeo, not your first E3, but you're commenting on just how extra exhausting
You have to
jammed up.
really want to see a particular game to get any kind of contact with it, right? You have to push your way through tons of people, and then like
Start throwing elbows.
if you don't have special connections to call in, then you're standing in line for 2 hours.
Yeah,
right?
and then it's like
crazy.
Disneyland on a crowded day without a fast pass. You get on 2 rides.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And you're like, oh, I guess. And then if you see a game that was kind of shitty, you're like, I waited.
Right.
But even if you're like us and you've got appointments and your press and you're supposed to be at certain places, just like fighting your way through.
Yeah, I have
get
literally
it
been
and
I
stuff.
have been late to appointments because like trying to get through the crowd, right? And that's just because I get recognized. I'm just kidding.
I also want to say, so I can't remember who I was talking to earlier today.
that
about
was cool, and I
this.
made it dickish.
And maybe you guys can verify this for me, but I feel like there's something about the booth designs this year, like especially contrasting to last year, where it's very exclusionary. I feel like there's
Yes.
a lot more big walls on the outside. of the
I haven't been
booth.
on the show floor, but everybody in my social feed keeps posting that photo of the the Sony and PlayStation
Yeah,
versus
yeah,
Xbox.
just with this weird
like just two
passive-aggressive-
defiant, angry walls. Like,
like,
fuck your box,
I'm
man.
not talking to you, but I'm going to push all of the color
Our
from my
wall
box.
is blue, and the blue comes
No,
off
green!
the blue. Fuck your
Green!
box.
Fuck your blue
What is-
box!
What is green? What
Oh,
is that about?
green's better!
Money, huh, Mitt Romney? I see how it is. Always online.
Blue, depressed.
I'm gonna call
sad.
Microsoft. I'm gonna say
Like the
Microsoft
economy.
is $M$, aren't I, Witty?
Internet exploder.
It's like they're a business and want to
Hey.
profit or some shit.
Shots fired, right?
Yeah,
Microsoft Orifice.
that's good. I haven't heard that one before.
We're workshopping new material here.
Oh,
just bringing out there all sorts of
we're like the
hashtags.
fucking groundlings of video games right now. This is fucking brilliant. But yeah, I don't miss the show floor, man. It's a shit show, and for me, honestly, this show usually exists for press and for people to get excited about the games. But this is a retail show,
Yeah.
where people make their projections based on this.
I mean, there is still.
And like the only thing.
press aspect of it seems like it is becoming less and less important because I mean, so much of it is shown at the pre-show.
And people have their own junkets and shit, right?
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's like Nintendo kind of just saying like, "Fuck it, we're not gonna have a press conference."
Yeah,
We're
I
not
just
gonna have
mentally, I'm already all digital. Like, so this whole like having to woo Best Buy, I'm like, just really, like, go away.
Yeah.
You know. So and Amazon as well. I fucking love Amazon. I Amazon my toilet paper.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Fuck leaving the house.
Yeah, seriously.
I just do deodorant from Amazon,
Oh, fair enough.
but no, I'll go to the store for toilet paper.
Yeah, but
Because when you need toilet paper,
Japanese toilet
You
seat.
need
dude.
it.
well, that's why I just order it 2 days before I know I'm gonna need it.
Japanese toilet seat.
Yeah,
that's so much more. That's so much more foresight than I
I
have.
keep meaning to get one.
But I wanted to
it
put one
used
of those on my wedding registry, and my fiance would not let me.
Wow. Girls love it more than
She
dudes.
didn't want anything related to butts directly on
Oh,
the wedding
okay.
registry. Which
So
is
she
like,
wanted the entire wedding party. You know, she has a nasty ass.
hard to argue with that. So
No, they're amazing. They'll
Yeah,
change your life.
E3 used to be a lot more open. I feel like there used to be a lot more games on the floor. I mean, definitely like in the CES days.
But that's what PAX
like,
is now.
Yeah,
Right?
Yeah, but like in the CES days, like Super Nintendo games were everywhere.
Yeah.
But it was only like usually one kiosk per game, but everyone had 8 of them.
Yeah.
You know, so you just walk over and just play
play
whatever
it.
you'd want and make
Yeah.
your way around.
And if they didn't reset the demo, you realize that the time you started playing this game was when the person either got bored or stuck.
Right. Yeah.
Which is a
exactly,
bad setup to have as well.
I actually have. I finished. Oh gosh, it was one of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle games. Finished it on the show floor while they were showing it in flyers.
Wow.
It was like 17 at the time,
Yeah.
and like guy just was like, "Hey guys, don't finish the game, will you?" And I just sat there and kept playing, and then the credits started rolling, and he turned around and he was just like, and the guy was looking at it, just going, "You just finished the game? Here on the show floor?"
Give that boy a job.
that was before they knew about a vertical slice. They
Exactly.
Yeah.
had
It's
the
like,
game out there.
Yeah, it's like here's the whole game. We just finished it, and the guy went, "I'm not going to buy any of those. It's like a 2-hour game."
But the thing is
45-minute game.
about these demos, and be glad you don't have to do any of this shit because it's fucking terrible. Like it's and you're doing your own thing amazingly well. Is that like I was partially responsible for this? Is we would orchestrate a level to specifically be a great E3 demo.
Yeah.
That whole fucking truck level, that was like, what's a great E3 demo we can make? And then what that leads to is visually interesting stuff that's fun once and is expensive and leads to what I call the E3ification of the industry, where it's all just like, oh, look, big explosion and a monster comes up. And it's like, that's not fucking gameplay. That's just like, Pirates of the Caribbean, right?
Well, you want to talk Gears specifically. Like I remember how insane it was that Gears 2 demo at E3, amazing, just with the building and the elevator sequence and stuff. And I remember seeing that and thinking, wow, that's incredible looking stuff. And then getting Gears 2 and playing through it, and like kind of having my mind blown at the fact that wait, this is like the end sequence. They showed basically kind of like the one of the apexes of this game.
But I
during
I
the
don't
E3.
trust any of the fucking demos. Like the only one that I've seen recently, and to be fair, I haven't seen all of them. Is I'm spacing the fucking name. Respawn's one. Titanfall.
Destiny. Oh,
Titanfall. It just looked like an actual multiplayer match, as opposed to a bunch of set pieces, and that's one of the reasons I'm excited for it. Plus, mechs rule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Being an indie, you can't like afford to do that anyway.
Yeah.
Like you can't spend 3 months on an E3 demo or something, right?
Yeah.
In fact, so I'm showing our game tomorrow, and what I'm showing is literally like the build we had at the end of Tuesday night. Right, I put it on a USB key, and I'm walking in, and I'm going to demo that. Right, it's
Yeah.
like there's
That's
no,
pure and that's real. That's actual game, right?
Yeah, well, that's part of it. Is like if I'm going to go talk to press about the game, like you guys know when you're hearing bullshit or when you're hearing like authentic, right? So that's part of it. Is like here I'm showing you the real game, but also just like for a small team, this game is really huge and complicated, and we just can't go and like let's do some work here that's not really on the main line toward finishing what people are going to play for real, like just because it looked good in the show.
Well, you guys all
'Cause
remember all the
we'll never
Bioshock
get it done
Infinite
that way.
demos, right? Like, look at like how the final game, like that whole sequence with the dead horse and everything, like.
yeah, it's not even in there at all.
And the amount
yeah.
of work that whole team must have done to prepare that like flawless seeming
And
demo.
it all gets tossed out.
Yeah.
Like those like Bioshock's not an anomaly, but a lot of those are just like ton of work to make this slice. Like this is how we hope the game will play when it's done, and then throw it all that work because it's all just for that demo.
Think about the Bureau that was that, the XCOM shooter or something like that. They showed up twice here at the show in
Yeah.
years past.
Is that the one that had that dude who had the booming voice? And this is XCOM,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and that like
But I think
50s
they
kitchen.
thought that's what the game was going to be, though, right? It's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
like
I mean,
they were doing a
they
demo.
weren't going in disingenuous, going like, let's make this, like.
Yeah.
But you
Well, let's
basically have
talk
to
about,
close the patient while the patient's still being operated on and make him act like he can sing and dance, and it's like you wind up with an animatronic thing, right?
Let's pull Prey 2, which had amazing demos for the year that it was at E3, and then that's not even a game anymore. Like that's just
or will be someday.
it may again be, but if they're going to use any of those assets, that's kind of up in the air. Like some of the stories about the development and publisher relationships have unfolded there, but
My dream type of E3 demo is the one that you actually play the game 3 different ways, or however many, and each time you see how there's different approaches. I think they did that with Dishonored a while back, right?
Yeah, that's like the Deus Ex Dishonored style of game.
Yeah,
That's
and
that's
here I'm gonna
classic
go in.
demo
I'm gonna go in
run.
guns blazing. Now I'm gonna go stealth. It's like, ooh, that is cool, as opposed to I know this is this perfectly canned thing, right? It's too perfect.
I mean,
Is that how the Thief demo was built?
yeah, well, that was just the linearity of it was not the problem with the Thief 4 demo.
Okay.
Let's say. I'm curious for both of you. You just had your first experience being up on like a big press conference stage, like talking about your
Yeah,
game.
yeah.
You've done that a number of times. Like, I'm curious what your experience was like with that, and then for Cliff, like. You've experienced like your game not functioning properly
Oh,
when you're up
fucking-
on stage, and there was a number of that stuff that happened.
It always does. Dude, the thing is they pay these production companies and to host this, right? And then you go see like a Broadway show where everything's fucking flawless and you don't see anything go wrong. It's like this is obviously a solvable problem to get the mics working, and they claim it's all the phones and all that. And it's like, dude, everybody in the theater audience for a Broadway show has phones too. Like, what's going on? And inevitably, the controller would fucking die, your mic would go out, and that's even assuming the game is going well. So what you're doing is you're basically professionally acting a virtual puppet in front of what could be millions of people streaming it and watching it. Yeah, good luck. Don't shit your pants.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And,
feel for the
now
for
you
the-
tell me.
feel
and
for the
memorize
Battlefield.
your lines, right? That's one thing. Is like for years I went out of my way to not actually use the prompter because you got a lot of the execs that come out and they'd be like, "This is Xbox. It's gonna be great. Let's see the games."
Very
As
Donald,
opposed to
very Donald
just-
Trump.
hair sweep.
Yeah, as opposed to just measuring the overall point of what you want to say and just saying it and be your fucking self, And and people can smell that stuff a mile away.
Absolutely. Like that's, I think you like having, even if you're gonna script it, like having it being in a recognizable voice seems
Yeah.
like it's such a big difference.
And then
because-
when you
yeah,
add
that level of
Ice-T up there.
authenticity. Like
Ice-T works off prompter all the time. No problem.
the
Core mode.
during the Microsoft press conference, the Battlefield 4 stuff where that just that full blown meltdown there with audio wasn't working, then or the image was flickering and then the audio cut out.
Yeah,
and
he's
then-
like, wait for it. I'm okay. I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
But he handled it extraordinarily
Yeah.
well. So Patrick Sunderland was that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he's a stand-up dude. He
Ab-
did.
absolutely, and that happens to, or we've seen that happen to a bunch of
But
stuff.
the thing
during
is, man, I used to do theater in high school, which is why I enjoy doing half this shit anyway. But my high school teacher told me, no matter how good of a job you do at anything like that, if you screw up one thing at all, the first thing your friends are going to say to you when they come up to you is, "Ha, you knocked over that lamp," and you're like, "Thanks," right? And so you want it to be we want it to be flawless, man. I'll tell you one thing, man. And if I had known what was at stake doing that Gears 1 demo at the Chinese Theater, back in 05 or 06, I would have fucked up. I was just cocky and fuck it, we're cool, right? I'm looking back what that would mean for my current state of how awesome my life is. Everything was at stake in that one moment, you know.
Yeah.
So John, what was it like for you? Because that is
seriously,
that was a pretty defining moment for you to
this
happens once every
but
6 or 7
not just
years.
for you, but also for indie devs, right?
Yeah.
To be up there.
It was a big surprise. So first of all, I didn't know that I would have the opportunity to be on stage there until about 2 weeks before the show, right? So, actually, no, that's not true. This is 4 weeks before the show.
That's still not that much time.
Yeah. It was like we had 2 weeks to make a trailer. We didn't have a trailer for this game at all. So it was trailer deadline is this, make the trailer. So we're oh my God, okay, I guess we do that. So I do that. We all worked very hard. The only time our team is crunched at all is to make that trailer.
Good for you. Only once.
The actual stage part was surprisingly laid back. Sony wanted to know what I was going to say. So I said, okay, here's kind of what I'm going to say. And they didn't I expected them to pressure me to talk about how great the console was. None of that. So it was just I was chilling out backstage and we did one rehearsal the day before or day of maybe, I don't remember. And then you just go up and do it, and a 2-minute speech. It wasn't that much pressure. It's a 2-minute speech and then a trailer. So it's not live gameplay of my game, right? Some of the games, there were 3 games during that show that were live that I don't think the audience knew were live. So that was kind of weird.
Oh,
There were people demoing it, and I think people watching it stream.
Were they running ghost machines in the back? That's a common practice. They'll have another person playing the exact same demo.
Because didn't that happen with Gears? Where the game crashed on
battery
stage,
died,
and then
or-
you guys had to switch?
and then they have a code word backstage, Armageddon, Armageddon, and then the pressure's all on the person backstage, and then you're standing up there playing like an actor, holding the controller sideways, "Ooh."
I mean, that's kind of
Shit
the
ain't even
key
on.
difference between your Broadway show analogy and what these things are is they're put together so quickly. Jonathan knew days before he was going to be on that he was going to be on.
Yeah,
Well,
that
in
was
fact,
part
I
of it.
didn't know who else was in the show either, right? It's backstage for the rehearsal, I'm meeting up, and it's oh, Dave Perry's here, and whatever, right?
Did they let you actually see the entire presentation during rehearsals, or did they have you come in, do your part?
No,
and
they
then
weren't
get out?
paranoid like that.
Okay.
No, we ran through the whole thing.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you saw Mark Cerny's spiel, you saw Dave
Yeah,
Perry's spiel.
I could have tweeted all that stuff.
So I mean, coming from a pretty staunchly, fiercely independent perspective that you did, how has this relationship with Sony been for you? How is and even just stuff like that? I have to imagine that anything that you're going to be saying and reading off the prompter there has to have some level of Sony involvement on it. How did that go? for you?
If I said something massively racist or something, they probably would not let me do it. But no, they didn't really.
I hope no black people buy this game.
Yeah,
The witness isn't for the Jewish.
It isn't. Can I get a witness?
yeah. But no, overall, the relationship's been super chill.
Cutting you off, dude.
We're good.
There's someone there who I work with regularly, a third-party developer liaison type person. But aside from that, it's totally they just totally trust us. They have never seen our game running on their hardware until last Friday. I never even sent them a build.
I'm telling you that.
'Cause
a
we
lot
don't
of
have time
that's-
to do that
A lot of that's
stuff.
got to be Cerny, man. He's with his history and I met with them and discussed some of their plans a while back, and he's just he's a fucking rock star. That guy.
Yeah,
he's
I
just
don't.
great.
But and so the other thing, when I was in that show, their point at Sony was look, we're working with indies now, right? And it'd be very easy to do that as lip service, but what I was talking to Patrick before the show, you go out to Sony's booth in E3, there's more indie games than non-indie games.
Yeah.
You have 8 kiosks for Transistor.
Yeah,
you know?
that's crazy.
Awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
so
wild.
they're serious about it, and I'm sure there's corporate strat. They're not just doing it only to be nice to indies, right? Hey, we want a lot of games on our console rather than a narrower selection or something.
Yeah.
That's probably the idea. I don't know. I haven't talked
I
to
think
them about it.
I think it's one of those things that lets them appeal to a wider audience of people to play games,
It's
or just
super-
to hit the people that like that stuff as well as the big huge.
It's
titles.
so super smart because it just what Sony was showing. If you just went back to back with Microsoft, just the breadth of the types of games that Sony was showing. I felt was
Well, it's like diversifying your portfolio. I mean, you know, I had this conversation about a certain shooter on a certain platform last night, and that I'm not going to repeat right now. And one of my friends was like, that game exists because they need a slot to fill that has a sci-fi shooter. That's the only reason it exists, and they keep pushing it. I'm like, okay. I mean, it's the part of the business of it all. But yeah, that was cool to see you up there, though.
And it reminds me of the older days of E3. Back before like sort of the mid-size games kind of died, like
Right.
you could show up to E3 and wander around the show and like find something really awesome that you hadn't heard about.
Some
that you
random
didn't
little
know about.
Japanese game, right?
Yeah, or whatever. Yeah, and that doesn't really happen anymore. But I went over to the indie area and like there was a bunch of stuff I didn't really, or I was only vaguely aware of, or I
Yeah.
hadn't.
I didn't know
heard
what
at all.
half the Vita games were, and like some
Yeah.
of them were like ports of existing indie games where it's just they're trying to get a lot of those guys on board to make Vita versions. But yeah, like that was one of the nice things about all of this, like this much larger independent presence, which comes associated with the fact that it's like early parts of a new generation. So there are a lot of these games that are just cannot be shown. So it's sort of convenient for everyone. Like independents get a bigger spotlight, while the bigger guys are working on their stuff that we'll see next year.
And
it
when
works out for
somebody
everyone.
buys the console, they know there's going to be some stuff there.
Right. Yeah, we were
For the
talking about
first
that, where
year,
like
yeah.
the indie stuff will like that like 6-month gap before you see anything worth playing outside of like whatever launch stuff that they managed to get out the window. The indie stuff can kind of fill that in a way that's way more meaningful than would have been possible in previous
And that starts
generations.
to give them a library to for PlayStation Plus and stuff like that down the line too, if they want to start having that stuff be free for subscribers.
Yeah.
It seems really smart on their part, and yeah, I don't know. It sounded a little bit like lip service when they first started saying it.
It would have been easy for it to be that, right?
Yeah, but then it's just seeing them kind of double down on it and keep
Their booth
saying it.
the booth space is fucking expensive.
Yeah.
That's very valuable real estate to have a developer on stage for whatever the 2 hours are, right?
Right.
And that's doing it, right?
Yeah, and just having boys up there with like this whole ring of independent developers and Lorne fucking Lanning is up there, and you're like, this is nuts! Like, what is going on? Like that was my reaction when you walked out in New York.
Yeah.
Was this thing just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, is this really happening?
It's a console launch show. Yeah, it's like
Yeah, that's all. It was,
But
it was
I mean, those pressers were starting to feel like dev diaries, where it's like, oh, here's the part where they talk about this, and here's but wait, there's one more thing, and all that stuff, right? And so more power to them, dude. But no, I hate Sony, so
of course, yeah, naturally. Why would?
gotta love it, man.
And that's why now that you're gone, this Gears of War PS4 image is leaked onto Reddit today.
Yep.
You're out now.
That's clearly
you
I
were
was
the one preventing it from
exactly.
happening
It
all
was-
along.
It was not the deal they had made with Mark and then Jay and everybody. Dude, when you popped that beer open, I swear to God, the scene from Arrested Development where he breaks the counter with the beer, that's all that went through my
Yeah, I
head.
was waiting for it myself, but if I chipped this desk, I wasn't really gonna.
You'd be off the case.
Fuck you, I quit. How
Fair
about
enough. Fair enough. But yeah,
Vigilante justice.
these shows though,
turn in your badge.
these shows are just fucking exhausting though, right?
Yeah.
And because the problem is, especially if you enjoy a beverage or two, there's so many people I've known in this business for like 20 years. I only get to see a few times a year.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm gonna try. And I'm trying to see as many of them as I can. And on a normal year, we'd be out till 1 or 2, and you have like a 9 a.m. call time, and you got to be up and bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, but you still go out and have a little bit of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And the next day, your early appointments, you guys come in to chat, and we're just like, "What's up, guys?"
And that's both sides of the conversation are just like,
so tired.
And the
of
older you get, the harder it is.
Yeah.
So tired of the "oh, bro, I'm so hungover" conversation.
Yeah.
Honestly, this show has saved me over the past several years. Of
yeah, this live show
doing this
like,
after hours
prevents-
live show of like, okay, I'm not going to any parties because I'm coming here and
Nurse a
talking
few
to devs
beers, don't
and
go
having
crazy.
3
Yeah.
beers
Yeah.
instead of 20.
Yeah.
no hard liquor.
You can just get
That's
a.
really the.
Yeah.
I mean, the only way to really solve that, E3 tiredness is having a cocaine problem.
This industry needs to get back to that.
Well timed.
Oh,
Yeah, no,
couldn't
it's,
agree
yeah,
more,
I mean,
Cliff.
that was always the rule. I mean, the early GameSpot days, when Trent Ward and some of those guys were there, was kind of teaching us when we were the new guys. Their whole thing was like, go, after E3, go out party. It was the Atlanta E3 years, like go out, do whatever you want,
Yeah.
but fucking be here and
Yep.
to do the work.
Yeah.
When
You
morning
do
comes.
whatever you want as long as you get your shit done and you're,
So
and you're good about it.
still drunk from the night before, wrote a hell of a preview for Grand Theft Auto 3. back then.
Do you guys ever find that after these shows and you go home and you get a little bummed though? As exhausting and as much
I get
work
bummed
as it is?
during the show. What are you talking about?
I'm kind of bummed today. Yesterday was fun.
Well,
And-
yesterday's the day that you know everything after the first day of the
Well, it's
show.
like
You know
being
everything
exhausted after you go to
and all that stuff.
Disneyland. There's all this stimulation for 3 days. There's all this boozing, and then you're sitting at home just like,
But it's like
Crickets.
Yeah.
But also,
Right.
E3's become this weird thing where, and I feel like this has happened for at least the last half dozen years or so, where all of the excitement is around the press conferences. It's all Monday.
yeah.
You know, maybe like Nintendo when they were doing Tuesday mornings, it'd be some then, and then you'd roll into the show. But like once I feel like it's been this thing where it's just once you actually hit the show, well, the show's already over. All the big kind of reveals, all of the revelations that will happen at E3 have happened.
Yeah, no big
And then
surprises.
it's like, well, now it's just 3 days of hitting your appointments
dear.
and kind of mopping up and being like, well, okay, now I'm actually going to go and see the demo for the games that were shown during the press conferences.
You'd think
And
they'd
a lot
save
of
a few
cases-
more megatons because I mean, as these PR plans are planned out for these games and marketing, you figure out what your feature list and the dates you're going to admit it over the course of 2 years. And will there be multiplayer? You're gonna have to wait and see. Right?
Yeah.
And you think they'd save a few, and as opposed to just blowing it out all day one when everyone just has their dick wagging press conferences.
You used to see some of that stuff where someone would be like, "Oh, day 3 of the show, we're going to announce something." Like,
Mm-hmm.
It has happened a couple of times over the years, but it's exceedingly rare.
Yeah, so it's a glut of news on the first day.
Right, and now it's with fewer publishers out there and kind of the mid-tier game evaporating. There's less of a chance to walk around E3 and be surprised by something. Like
Yeah.
you generally speaking, you know everything that's there.
I think the mid-tier game's gonna come back though.
You think?
Yeah,
I mean,
with-
I feel like the indie game is going to kind of just.
That is the mid-tier game.
I guess so. Yeah, it's going to
Well,
rise
fair
up
enough.
and
I
fill
mean,
that hole,
I'd look at like the fact that you could put a $25 horror game on digital download and that takes 4 hours or whatever, right? Like that stuff's possible, like provided they, the platforms push it, right?
Sure. I guess I don't know. When I think of the mid-tier games, I think about like, when Midway was around. Like not to say that they, that they.
Why do you hate psyops?
I love
Psyops
One
is
of the biggest proponents of PsyOps.
Yeah, that game was great.
Look, man.
Yep.
Psyops
For
was
real.
going bad. They came in at the end and saved it. Well, no. Psyops is a cool fucking game.
Yep.
But it's not going to be
Oh,
some
man,
gigantic, huge thing.
My local
And it just-
Stranglehold was, it had its.
that was
moments,
cool. Yeah, no,
but it's not.
Do you remember? Was it Medal of Valor or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Men of Valor.
I had that. I had that to pop.
man.
I was going to my local Quickie Mart for beer or whatever, and like they sell these old shitty DVDs in the front of it, right? Like I'm gonna buy Kate Beckinsale's Whiteout or something, and
Yes.
and they're staring at me as Medal of Valor, and it just looked like the ultimate like. We need one of those executive decisions, all right?
That is exactly, of course, what happened.
World War
is-
II
is they
first-person
said-
shooter.
Kids
kinda
love
game.
that. Kids love that shit.
It's basically like, we need one of those, and you have 4 months, or it was like
Yeah,
the
but that's
timeline
how a
was
lot of these
incredible
executives
progressive.
think,
Yeah.
right? Maybe
But I
that's
feel
like-
like that method of thinking is the sort of thing that eventually put Midway out of business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why you don't have THQ and Midway and these mid-tier publishers to push those kind of products. Is that they took these bigger swings because the bigger, fancier, showier publishers were making more money, and they took a stab at it. And
Did you guys get to see Saints Row yet?
Yeah. That's a game that I feel like kind of stepped up to some extent.
yeah,
You know,
that went from being like weird mid-tier.
And hey, I
like,
think they got rid of the
also-ran.
dildos, okay?
Dude, the thing is I've flip-flopped a bit on that, man.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? You have your big old dildos, fucking go for it. I just think there's room for a second,
That's a good in life motto.
and you get a dildo, and you get a dildo, and you get a butt
whatever.
plug.
Oh, he needs one.
Well, I've got one of those dildos at home already.
I like to sit at home with a dildo and a fleshlight and just watch them fuck.
I heard Aubrey was rolling around the floor today with one of the dildo bats.
That seems... All right, sure. Why
It's
not?
the game. Come on.
Yeah, it is.
We had a photo booth at our wedding, and at the bottom of the box of props with like the Katy Perry wigs, we had this big giant purple double dildo,
Yeah.
and we hired this adorable little tiny blonde little southern wedding planner chick, and her just going into Adam and Eve and just getting this big. It was like a fucking size of your arm, right?
I was gonna say, was this was a Cliffy B mandate of like we need some big double-ended dildo?
Yeah, I didn't
in
want.
the prop box.
Just one big purple one,
Yeah.
and it was in. They busted it
Double
out.
underline must be purple.
They busted it out after like 30 seconds of the photo booth. Like I was expecting at the
it
end of the
wasn't
night.
even like, oh, everyone's really drunk, so
Oh, and
then it comes out.
I think the thing somehow wound up going on like some hangover style adventure through San Diego that night, and Anyway, how'd we get here?
I feel like we've all been a part of some sort of weird... How did this dildo get here adventure?
That's not your dildo.
That's E3, man.
Yeah.
It comes down
That's
to
true.
it.
That was the other Colin Kane joke he did, by the way, where he's talking about putting a butt plug in a girl, and he's saying, right as it's finally going in at the last second, he whispers to her, "I got this at a yard sale." It's just like, oh my god, I cannot believe you did that.
Not bad.
CBS.
Not
But yeah, it's, Saints Row. I think fuck it. I'm like that team. The thing that team pulls off up there, like
They're having fun.
But it's look at the amount of shit they cram in a Saints Row game, and it's not like 10,000 developers, right? You look at the tech that was in Red Faction, the original Shattering shit, the last
right.
one, like they're doing insane stuff, like, and it just blows my mind that they're in Chicago.
Yeah.
Well, no, they're in
They're
Champaign,
Champaign.
Illinois, which is 2.5 hours south of Chicago. The reason they're there is because they're connected to the school I went to, and my school was an engineering school. So the reason their tech is so great is because they get a bunch of the engineers coming right out of school.
Get while they're young.
Want to just keep getting drunk in a
Yep,
college town,
yep.
don't want to leave yet.
Yep.
So they go.
And you wonder
get their
why-
position, get to work on video games, get to stay
You
in
just
the
gave me
same
hope
town
for
where
starting a
everybody's
studio
at.
in Raleigh.
Yeah, there you go.
I was gonna say, if you want to get drunk in that area, eventually you just end up working for Dave Lang.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's just the Iron Galaxy motto or something, right?
But yeah, they're pretty badass up there.
So I have a question. So
Patrick Klepek, what's your question?
we have two guys I would suspect have strong opinions on this subject.
All right.
He and I do.
Yeah,
What's
that's
up?
fair. So a lot of the discussion this past week and the last couple months, these new consoles, like digital rights, who owns what, the conversations over that, like the hardware manufacturers have kind of staked out different positions on that. The nuances of that are a little more nuanced than perhaps the wider audience is giving it credit for. And I'm curious what both of you kind of think about that stuff in terms of kind of what Microsoft has stepped forward to say what they're going to handle in terms of like used games, and then Sony saying like, you can do whatever you want, third parties can kind of figure it out, but our policy is that.
Well, that was seen as a big flip-flop by a lot of the online community, apparently, right? I mean, I've talked shit about this a lot. It's one of those things that I don't mind an always online world because I'm lucky and I have a great internet connection, and I don't think the electricity or cable analogies are actually that far off, right? The other thing that pisses me off the most is the fact that not everybody has good broadband everywhere. I want fucking full Google Fiber for the entire planet.
Oh my God! Just going and looking at Google Fiber setups, just like what's being offered in Kansas City.
Yeah,
Just drooling over this stuff.
Yep.
Oh my God! It's so fast, and the cable even looks amazing, and all the interfaces on the stuff
Yep.
is rad. It's
But I mean, it's one of those things that used games, man. I sound like a hypocrite because if I was younger and when I had my paper route as a kid, or I'd trade games with fucking friends, I'd buy used as much as I could. I'd do it like mad. I mean, not everybody's as fortunate to have the
You're
levels.
scraping money to get games, man. You do what you need to do. to
Exactly. I sucked a lot of dick, man.
Yeah.
But all jokes aside, it was
get
like.
pizza Raleigh, man.
I actually grew up outside of Boston. It's two different approaches,
What town?
and North Andover. Cool.
We get a nod from the Boston crew.
Wicked retarded. But at the end of the day, we could spend 2 hours talking about the entire thing. It's Microsoft's current decision. They may change their position. It's honestly, it seems a bit extreme, but it's their box. If that's what they want to do, it's software at the end of the day.
And I also, I can't help but feel like Sony has, in some ways, very cleverly, or it appears they have very cleverly left themselves some potential outs
Yeah.
on some of the stuff as far as the policy stuff goes. And I also feel like it's so early to. I feel like everyone is acting like we know everything about these systems.
Yeah.
We know how they're going to work when they.
Oh,
come
the
out.
whole the war's over now. Like the war's not fucking over.
It's Sony made some dramatic moves at their press conference, absolutely. But this is a thing that Jonathan, this wouldn't really have affected your game one way or the other as far as
Oh, we decided. You mean whether it's always on or?
No.
With
Well, I
it
mean-
being a digital release.
No, I mean,
it's like the idea of the ownership of the digital
Yeah, I mean,
content.
we'll-
Like it's we're already pretty used to Steam.
Yeah.
We're already pretty used to the way that XBLA and PSN releases work.
Yeah.
There is a certain expectation about I have to have bought into this system and bought into
when you
this
have a
system.
freedom and it's taken away from you as a consumer, you get angry. It's pretty basic with that, and I understand a lot of the anger. I just feel that it's very knee-jerk pile on a cause on the internet that happens on places like Reddit and GAF, right? So John, seriously, I'd love to know more of your thoughts about it.
So I have two answers. They're the same answer coming from two different perspectives, right? So the first perspective is from my engineering background, right? We all know software is kind of sucky, right? It has bugs, it crashes, it doesn't do what you want, right? Your save game gets corrupted. Like, you have to work really hard. Games are really challenging, right? You have to work really hard to make a game work to begin with, at all. Like, game programmers are really hard-working people.
It's a miracle they even ship.
It is a miracle they even ship. The bigger the game, the more of a miracle it is that it ships, right? The last thing you ever want to do, ever, in terms of a product spec, is to build intentional failure into the product, because you're just giving it more ways to suck, right? You can spend this engineering effort to either make it fail less or make it fail more, right? And DRM and always on, any kind of always online that's not like, okay, if you have an MMO, it's always online because that's the functionality of the thing.
Right.
But like SimCity style is not that, right? So that is sort of a, I don't know what to call it. It's like some kind of, like, if engineers were the Catholic Church, it would be some kind of severe mortal sin to do that, right? Because you're doing the opposite of what you should be doing. right?
Don't require the check and then not have a consistent connection to the servers to deal with it all, right?
Well, I would go even more basic than that. Like, if you have a single-player game, it should not talk to network hardware, period. It should not know if you're online or not. Like,
That's just one more
that's
point
just
of failure.
one more way to fail, right? So then the business owner answer ends up being the same, but slightly different reason, which is just anytime you're making a product, right, you want to listen to what the customers of that product tell you that they want, right?
I mean, Patrick, you talked to Scott Rode from Sony, and wasn't his answer like, why would
Yeah, but also like like we said, with it left them some outs. So
Yeah. Now you don't, and I'm not even saying that you build what people say they want, because sometimes you have to be a little visionary and like do a thing, right?
and what they
But-
say and what they want.
They know what they really want or what would make them the most happy, right? But when I look at the Xbox, right, and you're totally right that like it's their box, right? They get to make it do whatever they want, right? But if they want people to buy it, right, then they probably ought to be making it with the best interests of the customer in mind. And I don't feel like that's true, right? I feel like they're making it to maximize revenue in a way that is not far-sighted, right? Because yes, you can theoretically maximize revenue per game or whatever, but if you lose a bunch of people, then you're not really doing that anymore.
This is
right?
that part of this whole thing where you just said this thing entirely more intelligently than I could. So,
Well,
but to
but
be
I-
fair, it feels very knee jerk. Oh, you're gonna games, you're gonna rent games. Well, then fuck you. That's
well,
the
yeah.
vibe,
So,
right?
so having said everything I just said, and I'm not really, I'm not really disagreeing with you on it. I think I probably have a worse opinion about their description of the console than you do, but I do agree that the reactions on the internet are generally not well thought out, right? It's part of it is, there's a psychological phenomenon called loss aversion, right? Anytime it looks like you're taking something away from people, people get very mad, right? Even if it's something very small, right? And so Microsoft should have been prepared for that.
They
maybe
should
more
have
than
spun
were.
it. It's the classic late registration fee thing, as far as like the psychology of it,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
sell it, and if the ecosystem's great and the games are great, I won't give a shit, right? But if I'm moving and I don't have internet, of course it could drive you crazy.
Well, here's the thing, right? So, of course, the console announcement that they did in Redmond was a disaster, right? That was terrible. TV all day. Their
And it
conference here, I was watching it. I thought, like, all right, that was pretty good. Like, they had some technical problems or whatever. Those
Yeah, I
didn't
thought it was
help.
solid.
But like, they showed really solid games. That was their job, is to show games and not say TV, and they totally did that, right?
Yep.
It was a solid show. The problem is just that strategically they had already set themselves up for Sony to just come in and like uppercut them like really hard, and Sony did that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I use my Xbox for tons of like video and things that I wouldn't normally do. I'm dying to just get rid of my fucking cable box, and that's
Yeah.
a functionality that I see filled there.
But that's why they have all these metrics about what people do on their Xbox, right? And they see that people are using it more to watch movies and stuff than they are to play games.
It's the stuff they gave to the NSA,
by
right?
time, right? Yeah. But
Yeah.
but like I don't think that that's why you buy the box in the first place, because you can like you can go to Best Buy and buy a television that'll play Netflix now. Like you don't.
It's a late game development as far as like the current generation. Of
But there's two logics there. Where there's like I buy my phone just to make calls. I fucking hate when people call me now. You know,
Exactly,
Why the fuck are you calling me? Text me or email me, you idiot. Hey, what's up? How's the weather? But then there's the whole jack of all trades, master of none theory, right? So you could see it either way.
But that's why it's dangerous to go by metrics all the time, right? Like,
Yeah. What, like Zynga?
if I've got an Xbox, I'm going to use it to watch movies because it's a good device for watching movies on. A 360. I don't know about the new one, right? But the 360 is good for that. But I wouldn't be watching movies on it if I hadn't bought it to play games.
Yeah.
And that's the piece that they're overlooking, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they're not overlooking it now. Like, I'm hoping that by now their reaction is causing them to question their ideas and maybe reformulate them.
But I think your
don't
point about like loss aversion is that what they didn't probably communicate. All right, so even if we're taking this away, here's where you're getting in return.
Well, so
they did not communicate a whole lot of
there was
that.
no bargaining there. It was
They,
just
like the most was like, well, you get to run the discs without the discs.
Well, and that-
Don's
It was like
comment
that-
didn't help either.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
that's what he said.
Some of his this week haven't been that great.
in
either.
that interview, right, in addition to saying we've got a machine for you, right?
Yeah.
He did say like, well, people aren't seeing the benefits of always online. You know, they're not understanding, and it's like that's your entire job, right? If you're trying to sell this box that's supposed to be
If
always
that's true,
online,
you're fucking up.
yes, you communicate to me why I want this always online.
Right.
Yeah.
You know? And I do, you know, I've been a
You're not
PC
taking
gamer
it away,
for a
you're
long time,
enhancing
so I
it.
understand some of the benefits actually. Like I show up at home and like Steam has updated all my games, and that's pretty awesome.
Yep.
You know, but like also Steam has offline mode. I actually don't know. Like how long does Steam offline mode last?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's longer than that. Apparently, unless the game specifically requires a ping, I know people that have been off for years.
Wow.
And so the offline mode is a true offline mode, and so
But-
they just
but I feel like-
they just accept the the loopholes that come with that.
If Microsoft stretched it to even just a week, I feel like that.
Microtransactions to buy more time offline.
so I got to log online to
You're off
stay
the case,
offline.
Kaczynski.
I was this close to solving it.
Because I
Damn
feel
it.
like that's one of the things is that people feel just really hemmed in by these by the specifics of these policies.
Yeah.
I think that if there was a little more slack given to
Well,
the consumer,
back up and
because,
say,
like,
what does that check? What is the purpose of that 24-hour check-in originally? To prevent modded Xboxes and piracy?
It's-
To
Right. It's to prevent you from taking the disc and installing it on
Yeah.
multiple machines and,
Yeah.
and running into like the Sony problem, like the PS3 issue, where you'd have like the 5 machine limit,
Yeah.
and you could pass your digital purchases
or
around.
we
on the
we
PS3.
share a Netflix password with all our family.
yeah.
Wait, I
And
didn't say that.
everyone shares HBO Go passwords. Like no, that's just a thing that
Who the hell is
happens.
watching Weeds again? What's going on? But yeah, it's been an interesting week though, and it just my whole pet peeve is the piling on in the internet, and I realized internet logic is sometimes full of shit. When I saw the meme that said, if the 747 can carry the space shuttle, then I call bullshit on luggage fees, and I'm like, it's not about the weight, you fucking idiot. It's about the fuel, right? So it's not always a one-to-one simple match like that.
Yeah, and it's just like it's Microsoft's problem is messaging, right? Like they communicated the advantages if there are there.
Dude, I've been there before junkets where you get a pamphlet and you know they're going to ask these fucking questions. And you go over that for days before it, and you even do practice interviews and stuff. You have to be kind of on with
So
it.
you get the packet that has the list of everyone that's likely to attend the event.
Oh, they
and
give you.
their-
I have data on you.
Yeah.
Like basically,
I got to look at one
each
of those
journalist
once.
has what is this, and it's a paragraph that's essentially the dickometer. Like how challenging is this person, right? So I know when that 16-year-old angry German kid with his phone comes in, can you tell me if Gears of War sucks?
So this is why you
I'm
decided to
ready
show up
for
here,
it.
and we were just gonna softball you all night.
Oh, you came free beer. That's why I'm here. In the ghetto.
That's right.
Welcome to the hood.
Had to
Yeah,
drive, had to drive through Escape from New York to get down
Right.
here.
The whole packet thing. Like I've seen the Microsoft dossier on me at one point. At one point, EA.
It's like your permanent record.
Right. Yes. At one point, the EA packet said that I liked hockey. Which so because there was a couple of events where like, oh, like they just started talking to me about hockey. And I finally asked
That's
someone.
so
I said,
like,
"Go into my file.
hey
what
buddy,
the
I'm
fuck
your
is
I'm
that?"
your cool uncle,
That's
right?
Totally what
How
it
about
is.
those Bruins?
Yeah, it was like corporate, like warm up comic for a corporate.
Yeah,
event
not to
or
kiss
something
your
like
ass, but
that, where-
they always outline that you knew your shit, right? And so I always took you very fucking seriously when you went in the room and went out of my way to say, "What's up, man? How you doing?"
Fuck that G4 guy.
No, I had friends over there.
Yeah.
Pour some out for G4.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's always follow the trail back to what's the agenda and who seeks to profit with this kind of stuff. It's there for that, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I think it's a real shame with the Microsoft stuff specifically because their press conference they had some really solid looking games, and a lot of that stuff gets a little overshadowed by all this other stuff because they didn't message it properly because they have not addressed these concerns properly.
So how much
they do, I think.
But think about
some
this:
of these games are
the
gonna get-
ferocity of the internet now compared to the last time consoles were launched. There was a little bit of the giant.
Twitter is ruining society.
The little bit of the giant enemy crab stuff was like, haha, giant enemy crab. And people forget that Sony was the laughing stock back then.
Yeah.
because of that.
Yeah, but then again, they pulled out and they had a great showing at the PlayStation 3, right? And so whether or not Microsoft screws up remains to be seen, but it's still anybody's fucking game.
And to Sony's credit, like they used that, like the virality of the internet, the way Twitter
No,
works.
hey, more power to
They
them.
used that in their
Yeah.
press conference to just twist the knife in a way that they wouldn't have structured it like
But
that.
I'll
in
tell
the
you,
past.
mark my words, the average gamer, console gamer who's the 3 game a year guy, the GTA, Madden, and whatever.
Call of Duty.
Call of Duty kid, right? And has broadband in his house, right? Probably isn't going to give a shit. Honestly, that's my honest gut opinion. And I just want everything to be all digital. That's all I ever want. I'm so fucking over
$100
discs.
difference is going to be the tipping point.
That could be. I mean,
Well, there's the other thing too is the tech specs of the consoles are not really that even. It remains to be seen how much that's going to matter in practice, right? Because I think it's.
What's the big difference to you? Like if you were to just look at them side by side,
There's
what
a
is
couple
the
big
gap?
differences. So
I
certain
guess in
things.
practical terms, like you look at the specs
Yeah.
are one thing, but like in practical terms, like how does that really translate?
Well, certain things haven't quite been finalized, right? Even now, like there's numbers about like how much RAM does the operating system take away from your game.
the RAM one's the one I keep hearing about Sony.
That's way higher, I think, on the Xbox side than the Sony side, which amounts to the machine having more physical RAM for all that you as a gamer care about, right? So that matters. Development tools are good theoretically good on both sides. I've heard the Microsoft tools were off to a rough start, but they're always good at tools. Like that'll get fixed. But what I think when I look at the so there's a question of like what that RAM that is being taken away from your game and being given to like this console experience, right? What is it going to do and how effectively is it going to be used? So in the past, if you extrapolate from last generation, like PSN wasn't as good of a service as Xbox Live, right? It just wasn't as engaging. It didn't help you find stuff. It just wasn't. And I think that was reflected in the sales.
40-minute updates.
Yeah, every time you turn on your PS3, right?
Fuck off.
You know, all that stuff. So normally I would think, oh, they're a shoe-in, and that was sort of the belief going into this. But like, it looks like they spent all their effort. Maybe they haven't, and maybe they haven't communicated this, but it looks like they spent all their effort on, Xbox Go Home and, just doing this multi-layer operating system thing so that they can support bigger applications. Which on the one hand is smart, because if the Windows one gives you virtual memory, which I think it probably does, that makes it way easier to run programs of any kind, right?
Right.
But I want virtual memory for games.
So your main question is how much did they take away from the game side of things in order to try and replace your cable
on
box?
the engineering standpoint, right?
Yeah,
Are they giving
yeah.
up their advantage, part of their advantage to Sony, just so they can do TV and Kinect that nobody really cares about, right? I don't know the answer.
You're
to
not a
that.
big Dance Central dancer?
Should be, but I'm not.
Pretty
yeah.
good at Johann Sebastian Joust, though. Like,
Really?
fucking snake.
That game freaks me out. It's
Yeah,
scary.
yeah,
I get
don't-
panic attacks about it.
Come up behind you and slit your throat with that move controller. I'm serious at the Bastion thing. I was scared.
Jumping kick? Yeah, it was.
Oh yeah. we need to institute a no kicking rule.
He threw a
Gentlemen,
chair
yeah,
at me.
Are there championships for that, like MMA style, where like people are really they're like boom in the eyes and shit, kicking him in the knife? That'd be
No holds
amazing.
barred.
Yeah.
Johann
Yeah,
Sebastian Joust.
exactly,
Blood match.
exactly.
Yeah.
World dominated.
Well,
People don't
I think
bleed.
we're actually just about at our time for this this first segment here on our E3 Night 2 live show. So I'd like to thank Jonathan Blow and Cliff Wazinski for joining us here.
That was a
tonight.
blast. Thanks for having
Thanks
us.
for having us on.
Any closing thoughts here, John?
Thanks for not doing this in the shower.
No, we're saving that for Harmonix. They
All
came
right.
with their shower shorts. So.
All right.
Can you say anything about when people will see more of The Witness?
I don't know,
You know,
man.
some people here are going to see it, but what about
Yeah,
the
we're
rest
not
of-
doing more public stuff at E3. I kind of just don't want to say that much more about it until like the run up right to launch, because it's very spoilerable, and we've been very careful about what we say about it. There's a lot of surprise. There's stuff that you guys don't know that's major about the game, and you guys played it for like 2 hours
It's great,
hands-on
yeah.
or whatever. Yeah. So we're just keeping that under wraps because I want players to discover that. But part of that is just not saying that stuff in,
Yeah, it's not showing every funny moment in the comedy trailer, right?
Well, exactly. Yes. So I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna need to say more stuff about the game at some point, but it's not gonna be yet. I don't
Okay.
think. So
Cool.
yeah.
And Cliff, you're just going to keep laying low for the
I
future.
agent's gonna agent. You know, I eventually want to get back to the point where I hopefully am responsible for something that people will tattoo in their bodies, because that is fucking amazing.
Once that happens, you can't go back.
It's, dude, I can't tell you, like, the game sales are great and all that, but when somebody comes up to you and they have the tattoo of your game and they tell you that they met their wife on it, like, that's fucking amazing. And I'd love to get back and start something up, but I have to do it my way.
Yeah.
I've been talking to various parties, and hopefully I could find a way to procure funding to come back in at my own volition.
Do you already have an idea?
Oh yeah, I have concept art on my phone, which you can't see, unless you get me drunk.
Yet.
It's beer in the fridge.
Okay, cool.
All right.
All right. Cliff, John, thank you guys so much.
you very
We're going
much.
to take a break, reset here in the precinct.
Take a pee.
We've got guests from Respawn, from Double Fine, from Harmonix, waiting in the wings.
It's
just
crazy
on the other
over
side
here.
of this camera right here. There's a really intimidating crowd over here. So
There is.
Why weren't they laughing at our
stop
jokes?
slapping on the.
There were jokes?
We'll be back in a little bit with more of Giant Bomb's E3 2013 Day 2 After Hours live show. So stick around.
Gerstmann, my office now.
Case closed.
Search me, I'll give it all up just to be with you. I'm so happy.
My chair's broken.
I'm Ryan Davis. Jeff Gerstmann's back here, and then we are surrounded on all sides by Respawn dudes. We've got
We have taken over.
and ladies. I'm sorry. I use dudes in a gender neutral way, just to be clear here.
I'm fucking with you, dude.
All right, fair enough. I'll fuck with you. We have Vince Zambella here with his security in Abby.
Here.
We haven't given
Smack
a microphone,
knuckles.
but we've given her a ruler now, which was maybe a worse mistake than giving her
Oh,
a
that's
microphone.
probably going to be. Someone's going to regret that.
I like this.
And everyone else, please introduce yourselves.
Hello, my name is Steve Fukuda. I'm the game director at Respawn.
I'm Drew McCoy, producer.
And I'm Mackie McCandlish, game designer.
So, big coming out party for you guys
Yes,
at
it
E3 this
was.
year. How you guys feeling?
We feel great.
Awesome. Good talk, you guys.
Yeah, we feel great. I'll give you more. I'll give you more.
All right, let's go.
Okay, so we did a group photo yesterday in front of the Titan.
Okay.
We have this giant 20-foot tall Titan that somebody named Betty.
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 Where did that
Bitchin'
come
Betty
from? I don't
now.
know.
Artists.
So we got the whole team together for a group photo after E3 ended, and just the sparks that were coming off the team were just amazing. So I mean, the team is so jazzed right now, so fired up. We needed this.
Yeah.
We needed that bump. It's been a long 3 years, so
Yeah, it
that's
seems like
what got me
that's-
so excited.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I think a lot of people don't realize about E3 is that it ends up being like it can be a real morale boost for teams, right? I mean, you guys get
Absolutely.
to see what
Yep.
see what people are saying about your game, whether it's us playing it or seeing demos and the kind of the world. And then at some point, I guess like pre-orders open up and you get to start looking at hard data on that side too, right? So it's has that been just overwhelming?
Well, I like the new phrase, take my money. It's gone over really well with the group.
Yeah.
But for us, it's been, like, for Vince and Steve and I, it's been 12 years since we showed Medal of Honor Allied Assault in E3. It's been, like, the first time since then to have this kind of, here we are, oh my gosh, I can't believe the response.
Yeah.
It's really great.
And it seems like, I mean, everyone is talking about Titanfall. It's definitely like a huge standout game, especially, if you, it's just huge by any standard.
I just want to know, kind of coming from the pedigree that there was for you guys, like, what was the most key thing in this new project when you were starting early on? Obviously, you've been working on it for years now before it's gotten the light of day here at E3, but you've been thinking about this for a long time before that single bit of code was written. And I'm just curious, like what was the biggest underlying objective with Titanfall?
I'd say the first year was kind of like Thunderdome. of, many ideas enter, one idea leaves.
It's a lot of really rough meetings. With
Let's make a dancing game like that.
Let's just say it did not start as Titanfall from the beginning.
Sure,
that was for certain.
Yeah, I'd say you know how you smoke peyote and you go to the desert and you find your spirit animal. Yeah, well, it was the design equivalent. It was everyone was trying out just crazy random stuff. It was amazing. Like some of those prototypes you guys threw together were just amazingly out there.
Man, now I want to know.
Yeah, what did make it?
Oh man,
Let's see the really cutting room floor.
That'll be in the director's cut.
But yeah, it was pretty wild. I don't know. It was.
I mean, have you guys had that kind of freedom before? I mean, to just really, you've built up this legacy, toss it aside, and go okay, start from scratch. If we were starting today, what would we do? I mean, has it ever been like that for you guys before, other than when you were really just getting started?
It's really been a drive since Allied Assault, blew up. It was a huge hit for the time, and then we kind of rolled over to Activision with Call of Duty, and then it was like, well, we have to do a sequel, and we're going to be a launch title on the 360, and then we got to mix it up a little bit. We changed to Modern, we did Modern Warfare, and then we had to do a sequel to that, and so it's been this kind of, we've been driven down this path for a long time. So this really it's the first time in a decade since we've been really able to break the mold.
Yeah, and I imagine, so we got to do something similar by starting Giant Bomb, coming out of GameSpot and just being like, all right, did that for a decade. Fuck all that. Let's start from scratch and rebuild it. And it was super liberating. So I imagine that must have just been.
But a lot of that was, at least for us, was what were the things that we loved about that previous experience. There were things that were great about it. There were things about it that we felt were a chore that didn't matter anymore, that didn't make sense anymore. Was there a lot of that coming into this project of there are kind of some core tenets that we still want to hold on to here, or was it just fucking throw everything out and we're going to be as creative as we want to and just kind of find a new North Star here?
There was a lot of throw everything out and start over. It's a little bit of relearning. I mean, there's a lot of core of us that have worked together before, but there's half the team that they're amazingly talented people that we've added over the few years, but it's relearning how to do things that aren't a sequel. With a new team, it's really kind of breaking down. Here's the processes that we had before that we're falling back into. Let's not do that. Let's change it up. Let's mix it up. Let's do something different and change the way we kind of do things. I mean.
If nothing else, I was so relieved to see that it was sci-fi with mechs. Just that it was that much of a break. It would have been easy to see again those old patterns, old habits to fall back into.
Right.
But to see that that's not the case with Titanfall has been a big relief.
And that's just been really exciting for me because I feel like the Call of Duty-fication of every multiplayer game that has kind of followed in its wake of just let's come up with a perks loadout, let's figure out, okay, every game has a prestige equivalent now and all this sort of stuff, and it's exciting to see something that just doesn't necessarily. I mean, you'll use some of those concepts, obviously, but something that isn't just here's this shooter, go shoot. Having the mechs, having all that different stuff, having those options, I think just really sets it apart, and it's really exciting.
Did you feel any pressure to kind of try and very deliberately buck those trends, though, of just the impact that Call of Duty's had on just the face of multiplayer in games, or
well, if you're creating a new IP and you don't give something to people that they can only get there, then they're not going to come. They already have that.
Sure.
You have to have something new that you can only get from us, or people aren't going to show up, no matter how good you make it. Because you have to have stickiness. You have to break through their stickiness,
right.
With the new cheese.
It's robots.
It's like a trap.
And the answer is robots.
Tell me more about this cheese trap.
It's very elaborate.
We're not
Years to build.
All right, fine. The cheese trap level will be.
Everybody at the ruler.
I
like this policy enforcement here.
Yeah.
You can keep her if you want for a while.
Loose lips.
You can keep her for a couple days.
No, that's okay.
I've got enough bruises, thank you.
I'd say it really made us reevaluate how to do things and why. Like, we didn't take anything for granted. It was like, okay, well, what are we going to do, and what's the best way to do it? Not just, hey, that's how it's been done before. Like,
Right.
like you said, the Call-ification of games is that's just what you do. And we decided, hey,
Yeah, there's definitely a conscious effort to try and make sure we did something different.
Yeah.
While at the same time make sure there's a certain familiarity to it. So we want to make it work for both new and old players. And
Yeah.
yeah.
There's been a lot of talk about, having this be an Xbox One game, and Microsoft just keeps saying the word cloud over and over again, even though I don't think they know what it means.
Cloud. I was quite shocked. I was quite shocked when I read this long NeoGAF post that goes a long ways, and every post seems to be about cloud. I was very surprised.
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
Yeah.
What about the game?
Right.
Wait, the game.
But it seems like the game is using some server-based stuff, right? It's not just.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing
peer-to-peer.
technology when you think about it. It's like unlimited daddies, right?
well, yeah, basically, so Microsoft has this. When you look at it, Microsoft and Google are really the only two people who have a cloud, the
Yeah.
technical description of a cloud. And they've got data centers all over the world with tons of fast machines in them, and they can slice them up however they want, turn them into virtual machines. And then what they've done is they've exposed that in a very awesome way for Xbox One games. So if you're in Connecticut and you want to play a game, we can say, all right, well, here's the data center you're going to go to because that's the closest one. You have a 30 ping to it, and there's no empty servers. So let's spin one up for you in 5 seconds, and then off you go. It's not we don't have to provision hardware. We don't have to go out and buy a bunch of servers and rack them in different places. It's just it's there. It's easy. It lets us. It gets rid of all of that fear and worry of how is this actually going to work. It's just we have that stuff available to use.
Will you
And dynamically allocated, so we don't have to worry about where we place them and do we need more servers, less servers.
They just give you the specs. You just code to that spec.
Go, yeah.
Let's get crazy here and say it gets popular in Japan. Giant robots.
Sure. Okay.
They
yeah,
haven't
right.
traditionally been popular there.
Giant
but,
robots, very big.
If we didn't think that it was going to be popular there and we didn't buy a bunch of servers to put there traditionally, we would be screwed.
That was always, in the past, it seems like Australian players. Would get
Yeah, we
super bummed out.
love Australians, and we know they get screwed most of the time. So it helps alleviate those kind of problems.
Do you feel like this is like a fundamental advantage, or at least a fundamental benefit of Microsoft's always online approach to this stuff? Is that something that you're feeling you're benefiting from for Titanfall specifically?
Well, Titanfall's a multiplayer game, so if it wasn't for
sure.
online, but you couldn't make this game without having that sort of dedicated server support.
So what do you do on the PC then? Do you have to go replicate elements of that structure for your version, or do they have something that you will be able to use?
We won't get all the niceties on PC that you get on Xbox One.
Okay.
There will be some re-engineering of things.
Cool. Wow. So have you guys just been kind of locked up watching the reaction to the game? Have you been around looking at other stuff? I know you've been holed up in a...
Yeah, I've seen one thing. And that was because the Bungie guys were so awesome. They let us go in last night. Those of us with the special exhibitor badges, we went in 6:20 or whatever, and they gave us a demo and looked fantastic. Can't wait.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
I messed around with it a little bit today. It's super cool.
So what I've seen, the show is great.
An amazing E3.
Yeah, best E3 ever.
But the rest of you guys, have you been just kind of strapped to the EA booth? And
I've been pretty much in the booth the whole
We've been
time.
all pretty strapped down.
Yeah.
Which is good. Which is worse problems to have.
Right, totally. It's it's like
Yeah.
the coming out party. People want to talk to you guys. People want to get you on camera and stuff. It's it's best to keep you locked down.
I think I have some time set aside tomorrow, though. I look at Abby because she might crack the ruler.
Maybe.
No idea there.
We don't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
Back to back.
That's good. Like I said, worse problems to have.
Yeah.
So how's the reaction been for the folks that you've been in contact with?
It's been great. It's fantastic to see everyone. Like you said, you come out, especially after what we've been through, and it's kind of like almost like a comeback for us. It's. It is our first game, so it's not really a comeback. But it's that first time some of us have been out there in 3 years, so it's to get a positive response. We needed it.
Yeah.
So it's since the press conferences, I feel like it's kind of hard to have conversations at this E3 with third parties with independent developers without kind of talking about, at least right now, what appear to be these kind of huge philosophical differences between the way that Sony and Microsoft are, kind of presenting their platforms. Obviously, you guys have a strong relationship with Microsoft going into this. What are your feelings about, what has been said so far? Like what the kind of general reaction's been? Like, what's your take on this perspective that seems to be kind of cropping up?
I mean, can you be more specific on which one? I think there's
Sony versus Microsoft.
I guess that's fair. That's fair. But I mean, just things about the always online philosophy difference.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we can start. We'll go one by one there.
Sure.
So always on. I mean, to me, I like when my software is updated dynamically in the background, and I don't have to I turn it on and I wait 5 minutes for things to boot up or things to attach. And
Don Matrick maybe has had some issues with messaging. I'll be generous here. Over this show, but I feel like one of the things that he said that to me that rang pretty true is that look, this is growing pains. This is whenever things are in an industry, whenever things are shifting in this way, people are going to push back against change, kind of regardless. And I think there's a certain amount of validity to that, and I think that a lot of the issues, as we get a little more perspective on it, as we get a little more time since the press conferences and the general announcements, that we start to kind of understand the stuff a little more.
That happened with SD Broadcasting, right? It was a long time and slow rollout, but people still complained that they couldn't get their shows on the antenna.
Right, they had to have all the ads saying, like, you need to get the decoder thing, and people were like,
oh my god, the decoders. Don't get the decoder, get the television.
And I keep bringing up the Steam comparison, which was that when Steam launched, everyone hated it. It was the bane of the industry.
Yep.
You could only get Half-Life 2 through that, and everyone was super pissed about it. And it took years of Valve working really super hard on gaining the public's trust, the gaming public's trust on this system. And I feel like Microsoft still has to do that on some level, regardless of what they've built with Xbox Live and with the 360. That there's, if they're going to make these sorts of changes, they're still going to need to earn that trust in that same measured sort of way. So
yeah, I think you're right. I think it is a response more than a real problem. I mean, I don't want to have to play a single player game, have to put my console online, or if my internet's out, or we're coming to the point now where most consoles are connected online all the time anyway. How many times has your internet gone out in the last year for more than a few minutes?
Right.
Not very often.
Once.
It's not just consoles, like everything's getting online now.
Yeah.
Even like thermostats are getting online. I have a scale that's online.
I could change the temperature at my house from here right now. Absolutely.
Make it hot. Let's make it hot.
Is anyone there?
Yes.
I can do that too, actually.
Yeah, this just took a good turn. Where are we going here?
Right. So the Titans in the game seem like they lend a certain element of survivability that when you are just a human running around, you might not have. Is there kind of a deliberate push to try and just make it so kind of new players get to do cool shit too? Is that kind of the philosophy?
Yeah, that's pretty much the philosophy, is make sure that new players have some way. We analyzed we thought about how multiplayer games, people keep dying very quickly, and basically, what are some good ways to do it? And this is one of those things that fell into the scope of the project. So, yeah.
And then it seems like the abilities are now. There are multiple Titans, but you're just talking about the one. Is that how this is going? Are they all going to have the bullet catch, or is the abilities going to be kind of the thing that are up for grabs on that stuff? I'm just digging them.
Haven't we shown you
just
enough
our reveal.
for 1E3?
Yeah, it's our reveal.
This is a lot.
You
for
only get a
1E3.
peek under the skirt. You don't get the whole look, but
philosophically, going from the big to small and trying to manage that gameplay experience of having someone on foot as just a bare dude, still being able to manage.
Wait, there are bear dudes in this game?
Mm-hmm. Bears.
There are bear dudes.
They're actually a hybrid.
Bears?
Yeah.
Hybrid.
They're bears.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Cloud.
The cloud. It's the
Cloud bears.
It's the pro rendering technology.
Okay, all right. Now,
Care Bears.
But it's not just like a team of humans against one mech.
Absolutely not.
Like there is a certain dynamism to the back and forth there. Like, what are the design challenges there of making that work?
Those are big design challenges.
Well, at least the very first one, the simplest, is basically the scale of environments. Basically, I mean, there's a whole traversal time. You know, the amount of time it takes to get from A to B, basically, as a pilot versus a Titan. That's something that influences the level design considerably.
And has it been tricky to kind of keep things balanced to the point where I imagine you encounter players that just want to be a pilot and people that are just like, whatever, I'm going to sit right here and hide until the Titan is built.
But the nice thing about the people that just want to be the pilot is you can still call your Titan in and have him you can just assist off him or follow him around. And he still acquires targets and blocks and shoots shit. So.
Well, does the Titan ever regain health, or is it sort of like when it is built, it's constantly ticking down?
The game's not done, but in the E3 version that we've shown, the Titan does not regain health.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Yeah, we play test a lot. I mean, it's a multiplayer game that you have to have interaction with a whole bunch of other people to really gauge how it's going. And we do play tests all the time, and we record stats of how long people are in the Titan versus on foot, and what weapons they're using, and at what ranges, and all this stuff to try and, because the balancing of this is just insane. Like you're multiplying the amount of variables. It's just.
I imagine at some point, as you're unlocking additional weapons and options and stuff like that it just kind of becomes exponentially more difficult to make it all work, right?
Yeah, it's really interesting actually how some of these other things like player mobility factored in. I mean, there were experiments done by a number of designers on how to make that experience more different, basically. Like, I think maybe perhaps Crackdown might have been an influence along the way. Just that whole leaping buildings in a single bound was an influence, and having played that was kind of interesting.
But you got to be on like the small scale to appreciate how big this building is in the first place. Right. So that when you are able to leap over it, you can actually appreciate. Oh, holy shit! This is a feat that I'm doing here.
And it was also in some ways, very convenient in that it happened to play well with the idea of you can get across the levels quicker. By wall running, you actually gain speed as you do it. If you watch some of our playthroughs, in the booth, you see us doing some wall run sequences, and we actually get faster and faster and faster to breakneck speed. And that's what helps us, keep up in some regards with the Titans.
Yeah, the trick jumpers are going to love this game. By the way.
People are really good at that. The whole jumping
find
thing.
amazing ways to move around, and my head's going to.
Yeah, there's clearly things we probably haven't even figured out.
So
yet.
with the playthroughs, have you guys been bringing in external people a lot, or has it just been like so hush hush? You're just like, whatever, we are just these doors are locked. Like, don't let anybody in here.
Surprisingly, we've actually done some one-off testing. Like we bring someone in who they only play it once for a couple hours, and because it's really important to find out what clicks with people and what's just totally not obvious, because there's so many new elements that play with it. It's not a traditional FPS.
What was something in that process that you assumed was a foregone conclusion that the testers just weren't grasping at all?
I don't know. I think one of the big ones.
There's the one guy.
Which one?
He's like
the
he was the best, most talkative tester ever. He gave us great feedback, but every time he got in his Titan, he just got out right away. Forget that. I'm just gonna go. I'm just gonna go on foot. Titan's falling. Wait for me.
You just feel like he wasn't moving fast enough, like he wanted that mobility, or just.
Maybe he wasn't ready to go full on Titan. Maybe.
Yeah. It's so much to take in at once.
Something that's the balance
very
consistent
on the game back then.
Something that's been really consistent is watching the expression. We have cameras on people's faces when they do this, and we can see when they call in the Titan, it comes in and does the Titanfall. Boom, the namesake of the game. It lands. They always break into this big grin every time. It's very, very, very consistent.
Can you be killed by your own Titan? By your own Titanfall specifically?
No. Well, actually, we've gone back and forth on that, and you can grief it pretty bad. So there'd be some issues with it, but for now, it's not.
And we actually talked about having it scoop you if you're on the ground, scoop you up and stuff you in as it's landing. But I don't know if that'll. Yeah, we'll see.
Bumblebee.
Yeah.
And there's things that we take for granted after having. I mean, we've seen it every day for hours on end for years now. And, it's kind of the thought process of people who we kind of throw them in cold. We don't give them a nice, awesome training. This is how you play the game. It's going to be so much fun. Here's a quick tutorial on how the controls work, and then go. And my brain got recalibrated when I saw a tester walk into a room, see an enemy up on a ledge, and then look around, find a staircase, and actually walk up the staircase. And I'm like, why would you ever take a staircase? Just double jump, run the wall, climb up there, and then you're there. It's no problem, So there's definitely going to be, we need to figure out good ways of teaching people that, look, you can do things in this game that you probably don't realize yet, and how to roll that out without making
since
people...
it's new, people aren't used to it yet. It takes them, it takes you a little bit. But a lot of people catch on to it quicker than I would have thought.
It takes about at least half an hour for people to start.
But that's not bad.
Because they see people doing it around them, and they still don't do it.
Yeah.
it's still such a shift to most people. They want to walk up to a crate and cover and like look around and stuff. Like, no, just go run and jump and have fun.
Do you think that's something that, like, you know, like a single player portion of the game could solve, is by just kind of walking them through that and being a little more deliberate?
Something tutorial or something could, yeah,
Right.
it could definitely help that.
So not having a single player component here, like how has that changed the development process for you guys as far as not having to?
Or there is a single player component. You're just not talking about it yet, right? Is that the?
It's a multiplayer game. We're taking the single player elements, those wow moments, those signature, you know, kind of epic feeling moments, and putting them into multiplayer.
Okay.
So that's what we want. This is
So it's
that
not so
that
much that
feeling of
you're-
single player in multiplayer, playing with your friends, playing against your friends. You
And
know,
there will be
go.
like a campaign that kind of unfolds along the way.
There's vignettes of story that unfold as you go. We don't want it to be, you know, too big and too cumbersome, so it's vignetted. It's small, bite-sized chunks of story that give you backstory to the universe and these characters and kind of invite you into the world.
Yeah, so it's not so much that you are forsaking a single player experience as it is that the beats and the significant moments that you might have in a single player campaign are being folded into just the general multiplayer experience.
One thing we're really like focusing on, and since it's an inaugural project, there's like the sense of we have to build a universe. We have to get people to understand the jargon and the lingo of that universe, and so make sure, rather than just unleashing a bunch of terms on them, just get them eased into that universe. Get them to appreciate what these, you know, the ships can warp in. They appreciate the Titans fall from the sky, and just get used to that terminology until they take it for granted, and then, you know, we can build on from that. It's a very expandable kind of design, expandable universe.
So you've been working on this for kind of
3
a
years
while
now,
now.
yeah.
Obviously, a game completely done, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's wrapped up, just shipping.
You put a bow on it,
You can
done.
just ship it right now. You're just holding it. I mean, how much is left to do? Is it like a little bit of everything, or there parts of the game you're like, okay, we feel really good about this. This part's locked, or is everything still kind of up in the air?
I think we're pretty good. We're getting
Coming out in
pretty good
almost
on
a,
like,
you know, a year, spring. So.
Yeah.
But I think we're pretty good on the fundamental track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think in
There's
the
still more
last-
work to do, but there's definitely the fundamental track is fairly good.
Yeah, in the last about 4 months or so, I think we really nailed down, figured out what it is we're making. You know, there was a lot of experiments and prototyping and feeling it out, and now it's like, okay, we know what we're doing, time to execute. Just
Yeah,
finish
the
it.
core game is done. It's good. It'll, you know, it won't change that much, but the depth of all that, you know, what comes after that, the customizing and the unlocking and things like that, like what that is, I think will change a lot.
Yeah, big and small was just such a design challenge that you couldn't. If you tried to just jump in and do all the unlocks and all the everything beforehand, you could be screwed because you would be making the wrong thing. We had to solve that
core
problem of how they, you know, how they coexist and what that means to maps. Because it has a huge impact on the maps and the weapons. Like, how do you balance a weapon to be fun for a pilot against a Titan, but not be insane for a pilot versus a pilot? You know.
Yeah.
So obviously,
that sounds difficult. That sounds difficult.
the cart horse situation here has to clearly be like gameplay ideas before like realities of the fiction, right? Like,
Yeah, you're talking bottom up. You're talking about bottom up versus top down.
Yeah. All the way
basically.
bottom to all the way up.
I'd say this project feels to me like it's like 80% bottom up, maybe 20% top down.
Right.
Yeah.
So figure out the stuff
Gameplay
that-
driving things first, essentially.
Cool.
Yeah.
Jeff, you got anything else?
No, I think that's all. You know, there are things that I would like to talk about, but I can't.
We've gotten the pushback, I think, that kind of ends our line of questioning. But thank you guys so much for coming and spending some time here in the
our
Jeff
pleasure.
Police Precinct here during your
awesome.
big
The
show
building
here.
itself was worth the trip.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And then seeing you guys was just the cherry on top. I mean,
Excellent. Well, again, thank you guys. Abby, thanks for roping everyone into
Yeah, thank
these
you.
shenanigans. Thank you guys for
Thanks for
agreeing
coming
to
out.
it.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
The
no problem.
Giant Bomb E3 2013 Day 2 After Hours show continues in a little bit. We're again going to reset. We've got more guests. I think some Dota conversation's going to happen, whether I want it to
Over
or
my
not.
dead fucking body, it will.
So
God damn
look
it.
forward to Jeff Gersman's dead fucking body in this next segment. We'll be back in a little bit.
goodbye.
All right, welcome back. Third shift here in the Giant Bomb Precinct. I'm still Ryan Davis. I'm
Swing
joined by
shift.
a whole suite of new guests. We have Giant Bomb's own Brad Shoemaker here behind me. We've got Alex Navarro over here. We've got Brad Muir from Double Fine, creator of the now funded Massive Chalice.
Now funded Massive Chalice.
Congratulations,
Yeah.
sir.
Thank you. Thank you. We're at 900 something.
Yeah, it's like the
901.
it's the ever more funded Massive Chalice.
It's awesome.
I feel like you guys might have this crowdfunding thing figured out. I don't know.
Tim Schafer's pretty good at like writing scripts for Kickstarter. I feel like he could like
found his
contract his
calling.
services out, and be like, "Hey,
I would pay a Kickstarter just to see more of those videos.
I know. You know what? Somebody said that we should make a Kickstarter to make Kickstarter videos.
Yeah.
And then, of course,
we just make 'em.
we have Eric Pope and John Drake from Harmonix here.
Well, we have John Drake's legs,
We have John
especially.
Drake shaking his
Oh
head
my God.
disapprovingly.
This is
Status quo for John Drake.
The
Those
greatest
are nice
games.
looking.
The greatest games.
Nice
Video
games.
games. Video games.
Yeah.
Video games.
Why has no one thought of that before?
TM.
What they are.
TM. Whatever fucking camera. I'm looking
John
at.
writes all of Lana Del Rey's material.
Video games.
Amazing.
Hey, this stream has not been silly enough. You guys have been fucking like.
I hope no one
DRM
wants.
What's with you talking about video
Politics.
games?
Yeah, I hope no one wants actual
Fuck that.
content in this
I'm
segment.
glad we're on the late shift, so we don't have to talk about press conferences.
Yeah.
Because
There's
none of
other
us were in
stuff.
either of them. So
Fuck that.
Well, none of you guys were in them,
Bullshit.
so
Yeah, no,
like,
right?
why would we talk
I'm
about
not big
that?
timing.
That
I'm
is
not.
a
I'm not
low
Greg
blow.
Cassavan.
No,
No,
clearly not.
he's a big timer.
He's not here.
I'm not Adam Boyes. I'm
I know,
not this
yeah.
Canadian hockey fan making hockey jokes, making my Fast and Loose hockey jokes on stage. No, I'm in the audience sweating my face
Yeah.
off.
See, you
So
were
hot.
even in the audience. I was in the office. That was Monday,
in San
right?
Francisco.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was here building a booth because I'm not here just smiling my face off doing meetings.
Oh, I know,
I'm
that's-
pitching a real game, Brad Weir.
I've heard that
Weird.
the Drake show at the Disney Interactive booth is a sight to be seen.
Yeah.
I would
Every half an
imagine
hour
it's
on the half an hour.
nonstop.
Yeah.
Nonstop. Drake show.
He checked his jawbone earlier. He's burned 2,500 calories today, and I was like,
Yeah.
so you've been demoing the game all day? He was like, no, I've just been talking.
Walking and talking, making
Wow.
gestures,
Wow.
pointing.
Doing some West Wing.
Yeah, I'm Aaron
all
Sorkin
over
my
you,
way
Greg.
through this. Yeah, it's true. It's what I do. All day I just pitch, I sell, I go on camera, I yell, and then so every time there's a camera pointing at me, I just black out. And when I wake
Yeah.
up when they say cut,
No,
and then it's over. And I
That's
don't.
clearly happening right now.
I just.
You're not gonna remember
There's
this.
so many cameras. I'm never
Yeah.
gonna remember.
That's good
any
for
of
an
this.
adult film career, I'm told.
Yeah, I just do a little blow.
That's
I bang out whatever I need to bang out in that adult film scene. I wake up.
Is that the
I've been in this
aspartame?
Well, are you in the right building for
Yeah,
that sort of
I
thing?
know. Hey, I actually shot a TV show like 3 blocks from here in this warehouse district. It was great.
I don't know.
With Sebastian Bach,
Sebastian
right?
Bach.
Ryan, is it you that books these things every year? Do you just look for the shittiest neighborhoods possible?
Yeah.
And then I
Where
want
are
to
we
shoot a
right
show
now?
there.
So this year, unlike in years past, Vinny and I actually came down and scouted locations. We actually came down.
You scouted this location.
in advance.
You should have seen the places they rejected.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
How many murder showers did those buildings have? Not enough
Zero.
murder showers.
If anybody's seen the
Amazing.
movie where Jamie Foxx is a gifted homeless man who plays the violin, this
Several
is
times.
the neighborhood where that happened.
Oh, Fled.
Fletch?
I've never seen
But
that.
it's just now. It's just no violins. It's like just.
I think that's
no, straight
racist.
up.
I don't know. I think it is.
Is it racist?
I don't know.
It might be.
It's a little racist.
Escape the White House. Have you seen that? The Channing Tatum, Jamie
Oh,
Foxx
White
movie?
House Down?
Yeah, White House Down.
Yeah.
White House
But
Down.
I did catch a little bit of Magic Mike in my hotel room last night.
Me too.
It's a fine film.
Just enough to get finished. And then
How
you
was
turn
that?
it
Was
off.
it?
It was a fine
Well, I
film.
was reminded of just like, man, everyone else sucks at making movies. Steven Soderbergh's so good at this. It's like it's a bummer that he's stopping.
Well,
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
now,
for how
he's
long?
stopping. Whatever.
He's
Till you
been
get
saying
bored.
that for like
Bored,
5
he'll
movies,
come
though.
back.
He's not gonna quit.
I mean,
Well,
that's
he
a
said that the Liberace movie they just did for
He
That was
always says
supposedly his
that.
last movie, but
He's-
whatever.
There's
He's
no
been
Showtime
sa-
or HBO.
He'll
He's
come
been
back.
saying for like a decade he was quitting, and then
That's
he is
sensationalism.
the Kojima of film directors.
Well, I hope that remains the case
Yeah.
because I was reminded watching a little bit of Magic Mike how good that is.
Yep.
Yep.
Magic Mike 2 coming.
And I was
soon.
also reminded of how good Harmonix is at making rhythm game experiences.
With Magic?
That
seeing the-
seems like a seamless transition.
Yeah,
Ryan.
great
I'm really proud of
transition,
you for
Ryan.
It's
that
so
one.
close to a seamless
That was amazing. That was
right
an
back.
amazing segue.
If someone wasn't paying that close attention, they might.
And really, anyone in Europe or on the East Coast is probably asleep with their computer running at this point. So that's fine.
Or they're listening to it passively in their car.
Yeah.
So
in
wait,
audio
I
format.
have not seen the Fantasia game
Yeah,
yet.
thanks. I'm sure you've been so busy.
I'm sorry. I think you mean Fantasia Music Evolved.
No, Disney and Harmonix's Fantasia Music Evolved.
Inspired by Walt Disney's masterpiece, Harmonix.
Introducing Matt Bach.
Presents Fantasia Music Evolved
On the
Matt
Xbox
Bach
One and
The
Xbox
game, the
360.
experience.
Dressed up
so
like a
that's-
hipster fucking
Okay,
Mickey
wait.
Mouse.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
great,
wait.
right?
So
I
that's,
love
that's
that.
not what it's actually called. Music Evolved. What is it actually called?
It's called
Fantasia Music Evolved. Dude, if I could tell you the list of other titles that were pitched, believe me, we came out
Can
ahead
you-
on
One
that.
of them may or may not have
Give
been.
me a
Let's
few
hear him.
samples.
Let's hear him. Let's hear him. I want to hear
throw it
some.
out there.
Let's do it.
Fantasia, Rhythm Rhapsody.
I like that one. And
what was wrong with that
I
exactly?
I said Rhythm Raspberry, and someone said, "Are we making a breakfast cereal?" And I said,
God, we can only
"No." So
imagine.
Music Evolved. And
Wait,
you know,
wait,
it really
though, but
is.
oh no,
Alliteration,
though.
It really is.
Fuck you. Rhythm Rhapsody
Look, you're
sounds
talking to a
really
guy
good.
who's named his game Massive Chalice. it's like he went to Sebastian Bach and was like, "Let's name a game." He's like, "Guys, Massive Chalice, Savage Animal."
Sound.
I was so hoping you wouldn't cut me. For
I'd
this
stand
segment.
by that
Massive.
My
Chalice.
favorite. It's amazing.
But people know it. People go like Double Fine, like that Double Fine adventure game, and then Massive Chalice.
Yeah.
You gotta do- it's a good name, actually.
Yeah.
You got the
I don't
branding
know
down.
what fuck it has to do with anything in your weird.
How big
ass
is that chalice?
Over the
It's
top.
so fucking big, dude.
Over
Does
9,000.
it, does it fit over your head?
It's gonna be really big. Yeah, I mean,
So-
it's gonna be way bigger than that.
This motherfucker came to our party yesterday and ambushed me. He's like, "Hey, let's take a photo for Twitter," and then he just presses record on his video and is like, "Hey, I'm doing a video of backers for Massive Challenge." He just starts a selfie video.
You're
about,
totally wait.
I'm spoiling it.
Also,
Did you
you're
just do a
spoiling this for
selfie
everyone.
PR video?
Yeah, fuck you.
Yeah, I have
Ambush
a bunch
me.
of these, and
Ambush
they're gonna
me.
be awesome.
Did you ambush everybody?
No, I backed it. He didn't ambush me.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance.
Because you didn't rate, Pope.
All right.
I didn't sign an NDA. I'll do whatever I want.
It's gonna be fine.
It's not on
Everyone's
the
still gonna
backers
be
forum.
excited. Everyone's still gonna be excited.
It's a secret.
And
Brad.
I'll get you later, Pope. Don't
Bradley,
worry about it.
if you could give Massive Chalice a subtitle, what would it be?
Yeah.
What we've learned from working with
Music
big publishers
Unleashed.
is you need a subtitle to sell your game. What would it be?
Believe me, Unleashed is
I
on
don't
that list.
believe.
Hold
in
on.
I
that
know it
title.
was. You told
Are you saying that there were proposed subtitles for like the Dance Central games?
Uh,
Like it wasn't just going to be Dance Central 2. It was
Yeah,
gonna be
what-
Dance Central 2.
well, I guess
colon-
we-
Dance
yeah.
Central 3 had a subtitle for a while.
Yeah.
What was it?
It was Dance Central Generations for a while because it was about like the different
Patrick Stewart was in it.
Yeah.
It's not awful.
Patrick Stewart was in it.
No, it was a stupid Star Trek joke.
Totally
I'm
had
sorry.
me. I thought. I mean, shit. If
You
you're
guys literally-
harmonics,
you guys-
you can do whatever
It's
you
a little
want.
late
You guys
for
are
Star
putting him in
Trek
charge of the
jokes,
game. Are
Stewart.
you aware of this? Other Double Fine people? All right.
It's never too late for Star Trek jokes. But look, just you don't mess around when Sir Patrick Stewart isn't
You're
there,
right.
Okay.
He's a
He's
prince.
great.
All right,
He is.
so I
Isn't
know
he
I know what
knighted?
John Drake's doing. He's working
yelling at booths.
the main stage for Fantasia at the Disney Interactive
my
booth.
soccer
I have no
dance.
fucking idea what Eric Pope's doing, but I
I'm
think
also
it's
working the
first
main
time that I've
stage.
seen
He's
him
my
at the
relief.
show.
He's my relief.
So he's not lying
tag
about.
in?
He does a blackout and just talks for a half an hour, and I'll watch and pick out the best bits, and then I'll steal it from my demo.
I'm working material, man. I got
He
jokes.
throws out puns that you wouldn't
Yeah.
believe.
Well, you know, not everyone that's watching this, or even everyone in this room,
me
is
the
going to have a
puns.
chance to experience this for themselves. Can you recreate a bit of the Fantasia stage
What
experience?
bit do you want? Just throw out
Just the
a
best
How do you
that have the puns in them?
how do you
That's the
open?
best
I want
part.
to hear
How
your
do I
open.
I'm like, well, you know, guys, when Disney came to us 3 years ago, Fantasia. Well, first of all, let me ask, who in this room has seen Fantasia? Let's just a show of hands. Everyone, wow, it's great that almost 100% in every demo someone has seen Fantasia. But how much do you really remember? Because a lot of people, when they watch Fantasia, are either young, they're watching it growing up, they're watching it with their kids, or maybe they're in an altered state. Aren't you all druggies? Okay, moving on.
Wait a minute. I have to actually interrupt, and I'm really sorry, but I haven't even told you this story.
Go ahead.
Today, while I was doing demos,
Yep.
and
Use
it
that joke.
threw me completely. I was doing a demo, and there were these they looked like Amsterdam stoners, four stoner dudes in a row. Like, okay, whatever. One of them had like white guy dreads, and I'm doing the pitch, and then I start to see smoke billowing up, and I swear to God, he had like a hookah pipe. Like I saw this, like
Wait,
it just
like a
came out of
portable
nowhere.
hookah pipe?
Yeah,
That's a thing that you
There's
can
like
do.
a camelback for pot.
these guys were smoking up in our demo.
No, it's just one of those e-cigarettes.
No, I've seen
You see those all-
an exceptional uptick in vaporizers this
Yeah.
year on the floor. People smoking e-cigarettes, but also just like straight up, like people are just smoking weed in the show. And maybe it's our game, but like
That's
People are
amazing.
Are you
high.
gonna ask? Are you gonna ask him for a prescription? You don't know.
No, I mean I want to check. I want to.
These guys were really high.
It's
and
got to
they
be your
loved it.
game.
And
It's
they
gotta be
loved
your
it,
game.
right?
I actually
They
wish
came out stoked.
I
right?
wish we could
They're
give
like,
guys
yes.
give people more.
I've
more
had
of that
7
coming
Diet
in.
Cokes since I've been here. I'm really burning a lot. I'm sorry.
This is not a good thing.
That's fine. It's
For a
like
human.
Okay, I'm happy bankrolling John Drake's Diet Cokes kind of in perpetuity. At
I've
this
crossed
point.
the 20 mark today, guys. I mean, I'm almost at a
God
full
damn.
case of Diet
I'm pretty sure
Coke.
that's like a poisonous level of Diet Coke.
That's-
where that came from.
That's like where they take the rat. They take the rat and they give it that much aspartame.
I mean,
and
these-
then
this
bad
is-
things happen.
This is
That's-
crowd.
That's what
You're
kidney
seeing a man
failure-
die
that's how it
before your
starts.
eyes right
Yeah.
now.
I'm trying to preserve myself from the inside
I can
out.
see you a couple of E3s from now. There's gonna be a dialysis machine. It's gonna be really bad times for John Drake.
This is
Yeah.
So
this is
Fantasia Music Evolved
actually
2 is really a
Music
game
evolved
that
her.
we should make sure that you see.
this is actually crowdsourced Diet Coke. So
Yeah, no, bullshit. That game's not shipping yet. That's
Yeah,
where
is that game
Kickstarter.
done?
But I did
That
give
game's never coming out.
I did give a demo of that game to Nick Chester and Matt Bach
I heard that
before
they-
they gave me a demo of Fantasia
Yeah, I
Music
heard it was
Evolved.
on video.
Yeah,
Did
yeah.
they make the
there's-
cut for that segment, or did you guys cut that out?
No, it was on them. It's theirs to publish. They were
We'll put it
recording
up.
it, so
We'll put it up anyway.
Yeah,
I still
Nick
haven't
Chester
seen
and Matt Bach. That'll never happen.
Yeah,
No,
no,
It's
no.
terrific.
Yeah.
Well,
I
that's
can
great.
show you later on. You want to see?
There's a bunch of videos I need to watch on your site tonight.
The,
So
no,
Fantasia-
yeah. If you no,
Fantasia look.
I'm saying this won't be on any of that. But I'm saying if you want to see,
I'll watch it.
Duh.
You want me to show you some cool videos on your phone? You got some secret videos you want to show me?
Dope videos
that
on
you
my
filmed
phone?
here around this bizarro bullshit movie set. We walked in through, I swear to God, a three-story concrete staircase.
No
with
lights.
No lights. We both turned flashes, had to walk up the stairs. I thought we were gonna get rigged to death.
Yeah.
It was the worst.
The first thing we saw when we got in the stairs where light actually was turned on were gurneys with mannequins
Yep.
on it.
Yep.
And skeleton heads.
Skeletal
That is
mannequins.
Disturbing.
Yeah.
Did you guys do that?
no, that was there again. That was one of the things when we
It
came
came
here
that way.
and we scouted the location. It was one of the things we're like, we love this space, and then we actually literally we came back here to this set and we're like, we
Yeah.
can't not
So to
use this.
lock up this deal, I just want to really make sure before we come here. Can you guys just make sure you have some gurneys with some like disembodied heads?
Oh, I
floating
think we can
around?
do that for you,
Yeah.
Mr. Davis.
Get like a shower, like a 90s shower head shower installed. It's just dirty, like really dirty for some reason.
Really dirty.
No,
I'll
we
tell
can
you this:
totally do that.
that shower was really clean when we first showed up here.
We've been walking through there a lot.
Yeah, a lot of. I think it's just foot traffic going through there is
Holocaust of sanitation.
making the gang shower a little unsafe.
I'm ready, by the way. You challenged
really
me to
don't like
shower
that
here, and
term.
I'm ready. But
The
there's
law
no
library was
Gang shower, you
Yeah,
don't
I
like gang
really
shower?
don't like that term at all.
gang shower.
It just has such an awful connotation.
It's-
How about
We're gonna
how about
jump you into
group?
our shower gang.
Does group shower sound more?
shower.
I mean, less.
Does that sound more?
It's less aggressive.
Does that sound more inclusive?
Join my shower gang.
Brad, I'm gonna say this. So far, Jeff has said more
It's the
things in
white
this segment,
towels
and he
versus
doesn't
the
have my-
black ones.
There are two guys downstairs trying to get into this building that if they have called me. I'm not. No,
Patrick
no.
said he was gonna
Yeah,
do it.
Patrick's
joined
on.
together.
Pat, he said he couldn't find them.
That's just
Scoops
a
is on the
gang
case.
of
They keep
gentlemen-
calling
Dead.
me.
Those guys are dead. They
That's
are
You're
just a
probably
gang
right.
of gentlemen taking a shower.
No,
together.
if anyone is going to survive this neighborhood, it's the
Athletes
That's
do
true.
it all the
That's true.
time.
I'm really not worried
Exactly.
about
That's
it.
true.
about it.
Baseball team
weird.
taking
Nothing
a
about
shower.
it.
It's fine.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
So what's the best thing you guys
It's
have
I
seen?
feel nothing.
Sorry?
I have seen the last crowd leave the demo room at the end of the day every day. That's my favorite.
Oh my
thing.
God,
That's the most cynical thing you could say about E3. You're
you know
the
what?
worst.
So you can't wait to see your fans leave, is what you're saying?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got time to walk around today, and so I haven't been following the coverage because I've been on the floor.
Yeah.
But pretty blown away that the Microsoft booth is inside the Sony booth. It like wraps around it.
Yeah.
The Sony booth is a giant L, and then
Yeah.
the Microsoft booth is inside it.
Booth? Is that what you're
Yeah.
saying? Firefall butt,
It's
Sony?
nuts. It's nuts.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Sony's killing it.
Yeah. Adam
Did you
Boyd.
actually see any games or just booths?
I played Sports Friends.
Okay.
Sports
Yeah.
friends.
Yeah.
That's the one you went for?
It was the only one that no one was playing. I was
I
like,
have,
that's
I have
awesome.
access to like all those games from being being a back.
So wait, is
Super
that
Pole Riders.
is that
Pole
one
Riders.
package? I know it's like 4 games,
super.
they had 2 different kiosks,
Okay.
so I couldn't tell.
so it's not all 4 games in one umbrella. Okay.
I'm not the guy to ask. Jeff would know.
Yes.
He doesn't know.
He doesn't know.
I haven't seen any games. I've seen Disney Infinity. I've seen the trailer for our game over and over again on a giant screen.
Yeah?
Playing Bruno Mars dubstep till I want to
Oh,
cry.
Music Evolved.
Music Evolved.
Yeah.
Can't you pull enough?
Combat Evolved?
Combat Evolved.
Hey.
Halo Fantasia Combat Evolved.
I don't know if you do it.
That's a sequel.
I don't know if you do it, but in my demo, I work in the Evolved, so it makes
Oh,
sense.
so do I. Of course, Walt Disney always expected that this piece would evolve, and just as we're trying to be reverent and humble as we take this franchise and bring it to modern day, we want you to be reverent about the music as you transform it to your own unique mix as you play the song.
You're
I
right.
want to die. I want to die.
You're wearing one of these headset mics while you're doing
No,
this,
I
right?
have a handheld mic. I have a straight up mic, and I hold it, and whenever I'm about to trigger in, I drop
Yep.
the mic into my hand a little bit, like I'm gonna do a mic drop and I catch it.
But do you do the upside down mic hold ever? Do
No,
you do
but
like
I do
fist
wrap
in
the
front of
cable
your eyes?
like I'm gonna put my foot on a monitor.
Oh yeah. Ooh.
Whoa.
That's a good move too.
I can't say like I can't have a mic cable and not wrap it up.
Yeah. I
Henry
like
Rollins
this, just
style.
like you have your lead singer fantasies, and this is the place
Yeah.
to fulfill them.
We'll
instead
hopefully
of
make
being the
another Rock
drummer.
Band game someday. I'll get to do that, but right now we're making Fantasia music.
There you go. The next game from Harmonix
Get Brad
confirmed.
Weir to
Evolution
form
of
a-
music.
Yeah, film a Kickstarter.
Can't you just like pull enough rank to get out of there for an hour?
Whenever I leave the stage,
Then he has to go do interviews.
bad things happen to me. I leave the stage, I run into Brad. I leave the stage, I run into fucking, like, what's his face? Dan Reichert? who
Tyra
also-
Banks. Tyra
also
Banks was
ambushed
supposed
me
to come
with the
today.
camera. Tyra Banks was just wandering around.
He was on call for like an hour to play the game with Tyra Banks and never showed up.
I got Korean broadcasting service asking to get like if I can sneak them into a demo, like the nation state of Korea would like to film a demo for our game. It's been a weird week. I don't know. So I try to really stay on stage because then people can't bother me. It's my sanctuary where I'm really alone. I'm in a room full of people like at an airport, but I'm really all by myself.
It's profound.
So you're a secret.
Holding the floor.
So you're a secret misanthrope, is what you're saying?
I'm like
A secret? Wait,
Okay.
wait, secret?
All right.
Yeah. It's not really a secret.
Hey,
That sounds stressful.
fuck you.
Case in point.
See, there you go.
Yep.
That's the kind
Yep.
that's-
Have you considered alcohol?
It's all an act. Anything positive, negative is just an act. I'm really just like a completely neutral shell of a person. At
You're
this
a
point.
blank
I'm
slate.
filled with like no emotion, and whatever you're gonna give me, I'm gonna feed back to you. So I see Brad, all this fucking smiling teeth, and I just like feel the polar opposite. I just wanna, like,
Aspartame is your
be
Prozac.
filled with rage.
Oh
just,
my
like,
God.
Lift this desk up and just throw it at him, and just like take this 4x4 car. What is happening in this set? by the
Don't
way?
know.
You are each other's yin and
What is
yang.
happening to him?
We're watching the awesome
Is he
breakdown
a
of John
wrestler?
Drake.
Yeah.
It's pretty
John
awesome.
Drake is your dark mirror.
I know that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
I'm the weird mirror. Is that
You're
what you said?
a
Is that the
dark-
mirror?
You're
Mirror.
Bizarro. You're Bizarro Brad Muir.
Yeah.
The rural
Mirror,
mirror.
mirror. Yeah.
I'm sorry. It actually is really sad. But look, you're smiling now.
No, you don't understand. He only smiles when
You're
he's in
sad.
pain.
Yes.
He's happy.
He
See,
only
look at-
smiles when he's in
Alex
pain.
is right. This happens
Look at that.
anytime
Brownie
we're on
Brad
the road.
Muir could not be happier, John Drake.
Okay, now I'm gonna rise above your sadness. I'm gonna rise above your sadness. That's
Rise
really fucked
Rise
up.
above Brad.
Sounds
Sounds like a Linkin Park
Yeah.
lyric.
Rise above
It really
your
does.
sadness.
Yeah. Yo, your
sadness is rising above. They're another band that was supposed to come to the booth today.
That
they
might be
did it?
Linkin Park.
And they'll be in Fantasia Music Evolved. probably.
Yeah.
God willing.
Naturally.
Who knows?
I think it needs a really.
That's the real title. Don't laugh. Come on. It's the name of the game. Get
They
the fuck outta
have to
here.
call it that now.
God damn it. Trying to sell it up.
YOLO.
Fantasia YOLO got shot down.
I think Fantasia Music Evolved could use a really dark new metal edge.
I love that you're gesturing with the 5 1/4 floppy now.
I gave him that, and he has not put it down since.
It's amazing. I don't know. I
Feels
think this
good,
is
right?
Yeah, it does. It's just
It's
kind
like
of,
touching elementary
kind of
school.
floppy. You know what I mean?
Like
Math
a like a
munchers.
floppy disk.
Yeah. I like it.
That's some kind of disc.
Hey, what were we talking about?
I don't
What's
remember.
happening?
You're
talking about
some
you
dumb game and you're, it's
In your
drugs. I
fucking
don't know.
game.
God, why don't we talk about your imaginary
All right,
game?
we
It's not
should.
real.
See, I was trying-
Whatever, I'll talk
we
about
can
your
totally
game.
talk about my imaginary
I backed
game.
your game for what it's worth. For all the shit talking,
Okay.
I gave you cash monies to
Thank
make
you
your
very-
game happen because I
thank
like
you very much.
deep down underneath all the seething hatred. There's a kernel of appreciation
It's
for you.
because, I mean, how could you not love me?
Wow.
Wow.
First of all, you're handsome and modest. I mean,
Sure.
mostly modest.
Totally
The most modest.
The
Christ.
most
The
modest person
modest
ever. Yes. Okay, cool. Continue.
Keep going. What else?
No.
Continue talking about
You know
my
what?
game.
Other things.
I don't know anything about your game. I watched half the video, saw basically that your video explains, as I believe I tweeted at you, that you work one day every 2 years to film a video, and then they put you back in a hibernation state and be like, well, he pitched 7 games between now and then. None of those got greenlit, so I guess we'll wake him up and do a Kickstarter video. Then shell him for 2 years. Talking shit about
Brad's
what I
actually
was
in
what it is.
cold storage.
I've
when
been
he's
on the
not doing
road for
fucking
6
Kickstarter
months.
videos.
As soon as it closes, I think I will go back to that.
Yeah, that's your
Insane
crunch.
Asylum. That's
You
it.
know that every time they play the video,
sing
you're
out.
not acting live, right? It's like not like you do that over and over again.
Yes, Yeah, I'm aware of that, actually. I don't know if the viewers know that, though, so it's a good educational piece.
It's a weird little picture box theater. You're just on call to start the show.
It's like, no, that's a recording.
Oh.
That's a recording.
Thanks, Mom.
On the
Sorry.
internet.
So, Brad Muir, what are you up to at the show then?
We're,
we know what these jackasses are doing.
Yeah,
Do you?
I know. I heard about it at great length.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
You know what?
You're not taking showers. I get that part.
I'm ready, man.
Not
Let's
yet.
do this.
The gang showers later.
It'll happen.
Hey, I came to shower.
Oh, it'll
I
happen.
was told that I would not show up to shower, and I have shown up to shower. I got a tank top on under this. I got basketball shorts on. Let's get dirty.
Let's get down to tank top.
Let's get clean.
Wait,
Yeah.
that's not how showers work.
No, you're here to get clean.
Camera for CBS.
It's a dirty
you don't
shower.
Get dirty in a
He's
shower.
down to
That's
get
not
dirty.
how it works.
In those showers, have you looked at the showers? What's happening? I'm taking my jacket off.
This is the most of John Drake's arms I've ever seen.
Wait, show him the shoes. Show him the shoes.
Yeah. I mean, that completes
The shoes are the best part.
This is really Yep, my business beach cash.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you doing? This is like, if Top Gun.
Dad, did you kill for those shoes?
these are my work boots. If Top Gun and Office Space had a baby, it would be
Wait,
this
those
outfit.
are not boots. Put
I
those
mean,
back
they're like,
up on the
but
thing.
when you wear black socks, they kind of blend in.
You can't call those work
Can you see?
boots.
I don't know what it looks like.
Those are. Tell them those aren't boots.
No, they're like
They're
slip-on
like
loafers.
Italian Lothario.
They're not
shoes.
though. They're fucking like cheap ass. They're Echoes. They're not, like,
No, those
nice
are
shoes.
like
They're not
postal
boots.
worker shoes.
Yeah.
They're not. Fuck you.
You can deliver some
Balance.
mail
Hold on,
looking
hold
like
on.
that.
Postal supervisor
Thank
shoes.
you. Thank you. I'm a manager.
No, postal service. Like the band.
You know, I wonder
yeah,
if
sure,
you're
you're
gonna
right.
make
I'm with
my
you on that.
career or ruin my career, and I can never tell.
Is there a
John,
difference?
No, it's the same
John,
thing.
if anyone's going to make or ruin your career, it's going to be you. We're just giving you the avenue. We're giving
I
you the
know.
rope to hang yourself
It's the-
with. You're
it's-
hanging. You're
It's
doing
the
all
only
the
place I
hanging.
feel like I can be myself.
Yes.
Whatever that means.
Not even
Hey,
a
Ryan
band.
Davis.
It's kind of.
How's it going?
It's going well. We're having too much fun here
I know.
in our ridiculous space.
See how much
Fucking
energy
guys
we
over
bring?
here.
Bring the energy.
By we, you mean
the
you.
magical
and the
energy to
Diet Coke
transform a
is what it
song
is.
into your custom mix.
Brad Muir, what the fuck is Massive Chalice? What are you doing? What's
Yeah,
going
talk
on?
about your shit.
Massive Chalice. You should check it out, massivechalice.com.
I have a
Our new
question.
Kickstarter.
I have a
Wow.
question.
Yeah.
How much of
Pitch
Massive
Brad.
Chalice actually exists at this point?
Basically everything that we've shown you.
Has a line of code been written? Has a polygon been modeled?
Has a line of code been written? So I worked on like a very small prototype, like a Unity
Okay.
prototype, to sort of prove out some of the concepts that we're talking about with like the strategic layer.
Okay.
And it's like in Unity, and like I wrote it, so like none of
Drake,
that
you have to
code's
stop.
gonna be in
I'm
the
cutting you
game.
off.
Sure.
It's fucking terrible. But like, it helped us prove out like, yeah, like the whole like generational like heroes aging thing, like managing the strategic layer and like having children and all that stuff is totally gonna work. It's gonna be cool. So we're gonna throw all that stuff out. So
First on the
this
cut
is how
list.
games are made. Like, I mean, people will tell you this. Like,
Can't spell crowdfunding without fun / cutting all the fun.
so it's like, I mean, you have to like prototype shit out and be like, yeah, it's totally gonna work. So let's start over. Like, that's a big part of like the creative process.
So
And it's awesome.
In all
So, yes,
seriousness,
no,
like,
no code has been written
well,
for the actual game.
did you guys like start getting down to work as soon as it got funded, or do you wait until the end of the thing and see how much you get before you actually
So we're
get to
talking
work?
About, I mean, we talked about like, oh yeah, maybe we'll be able to like work on the design of the game. There's only like 4 people that are assigned to it. Cool. Let's launch it, and then we're like, holy shit, we need to put all of our fucking time into the campaign for the month, you know.
Well, Double
So
Fine's
it's
like a
4 weeks of
400-person
that.
studio, right? So that's great. You can just
We're
pull
like-
people off of your engine team.
We're
and
like
run over
I mean,
there.
couldn't
We're like 60 people. and,
couldn't
like,
you get Double Fine Vancouver to help you out a little bit? Like,
It's actually the Malaysia studio that
Oh,
was
okay,
that
okay.
really brought to
They're just
bear
modeling
Yeah.
horse
Massive
workers.
Chalice.
All-day horse model.
That is racist. Whatever you said.
You didn't hear it. It's just a
Look,
million
the Double
Malaysian
Fine
women
Malaysia
in a
studio,
factory
those
modeling
are some of the
shaders.
nicest
I'm
people
sorry,
you
the
will
Malaysians
ever
are
meet.
lazy. Are you happy now?
More like Malaysians, am I right? See what I did there? I
Ryan
twisted it.
Davis was forced to apologize to the nation of Malaysia today.
after causing an international incident.
I love Malaysia.
My fingers
I love
crossed for an
Malaysia.
international incident. Are you kidding me?
Oh my god. That's the best thing that CBSI could ever own.
Yeah.
So wait, what was your question?
Oh, going to war in Malaysia.
We haven't written any code. I mean, it's very early. We thought that we were gonna sort of further to the game's design.
Well,
a little bit,
So you're
but
gonna
it's like, holy shit, we've got to put all 3 or 4 hands on deck for the duration of the
3 or 4
campaign.
so work on the game itself won't begin until the campaign is over.
That is the current plan right
Okay.
now. I mean, we're doing a lot of like discussions about the game, and we're trying to do like live streams and like get people involved and like try to just get people involved as much as possible on the ground floor.
I think it's like with I would hope that the lesson was learned from Broken Age for Double Fine as far as like, the scope of that game, what the original proposal was, obviously changed pretty radically when you guys ended up raising a shitload more money than you had ever anticipated with that stuff. So I would assume that you guys would similarly kind of wait to see how this stuff pans out ultimately before you decide, okay, this is where we're going to spend our time. This is how the team is going to end up using their energy.
And we had, the 725 number was like a number that we decided was sort of like the minimum that we could make a really good game.
No, take that back off. Don't put that back on.
Cold, man.
You look really good.
Drink less Diet Coke.
Yeah, he has no food.
Oh, you're going to be cold.
Diet Coke.
Stop rubbing the Diet Cokes on your
That's
skin.
terrifying to think
It's
about.
like 80 degrees in here, and he's
He's
cold.
double fisting Diet Coke. You need to arrest this man.
Like I
Arrest this
said,
man.
we are giving him the rope.
Yep.
He is deciding to hang himself.
With that lovely black tank top.
It looks good. Dance Central on it.
Oh, it's a Dance Central.
You can buy this on harmonix.spreadshirt.com right now.
Sell.
Spreadshirt is a horrifying term.
Yeah, I don't like that
I
at
just
all.
heard.
It's
I don't
kinda-
want a spreadshirt.
It's
Yet gang shower is fine, apparently.
It's a little bit vulgar.
Like massive chalice.
Yeah, nothing like massive chalice.
Put that chalice in there.
chalice.
Massive chalice. I'm in it for the circumference.
Brad Muir's massive chalice.
There will be an actual
The
massive
chalice
in the
is
game.
thick like a Pringles can.
Are you guys going to get like Weta Workshop to make a massive chalice?
We've talked about this. I don't know if we'll actually be able to do it, but we talked about like making an actual massive chalice that would be kind of like the Stanley Cup, and then anyone that backs over a certain amount, we would inscribe their names onto the massive chalice, and it would be this huge thing that we have in the office. It'd be a relic, it'd be this awesome thing that we have. We could take it to PAX, and people could drink beer out of it, and it'd be amazing. So we're looking into that. We're pricing it out.
Don't put that mask on. You don't know where that mask has been.
I don't know. Like I think that would be amazing. Like because I feel like a lot of the really high level rewards that you see on Kickstarters are sometimes like physical items that are elaborate that get shipped to you. But I think it's an interesting thing to think about. Like what if we reach a certain number on the Kickstarter and we actually make this cool thing that like lives in the Double Fine.
That you give it to the world, right?
Yeah,
it's
right.
like that. It's like that RoboCop statue in Detroit,
oh my
right?
God, that was. I'm from the Detroit area,
Yeah.
and I really wanted that thing to happen, and they actually
And
raised
it
enough
did.
money for it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have you seen it?
But Detroit blocked it. I thought they
No, it's happening. Have you seen
They
it?
already have a prototype.
No, they did a casting already.
They casted
they've
it.
done a
They
casting
cast it,
for
and it is huge.
Oh my God,
It's
that's
super
the
happening.
best. I'm
Yeah.
so excited to
I mean,
go
granted,
see that when I go home.
When Detroit is abandoned in
I pretty
15
much
years,
checked
it's like not going to mean much.
Detroit's
but,
already
right now.
abandoned.
it'll be happening.
Detroit is already abandoned.
It's gonna, I mean, more
Fine.
abandoned.
There's some people that live there. It's
Some
fine.
place. In 15 years, that place is going to be Centralia, Pennsylvania. It's going to be a fucking nightmare.
It'll
You're
be
getting close to
fine.
my. People are actually like buying up real estate in Detroit now. Like groups of people are just like, we're gonna go buy a block and we're gonna move there and it'll be like a party.
My roommates and I considered buying an old police precinct. It was like 2 square blocks. It was like
Yeah, I mean,
like
look
$100
at
grand. It was like nothing. It was like
look at all this value.
Yeah.
we were talking
I
about
don't know
if you
if you
bought
wanna do
enough
that,
if you
though.
bought enough property in Detroit, you could like get a BioShock Infinite zipline system going. You never had to go to the streets. You just zipline from place to place.
Just buy it all
That
and
could
rename it Delta
bypass
City.
Gangs of wild dogs that currently run
It's
Detroit.
like Mad Max, that game that Avalanche is making. The team behind.
It will
just
have,
Infinite.
it will have as much Australians in it as actual Mad Max.
My older brother was a cop in Detroit about
Jesus
5, 6, 7
Wait,
years.
Wait,
ago.
not
is that
old
the
Detroit,
brother
right?
that we play Dota with?
Is your brother
No,
part
That's
robot?
the younger brother.
Okay.
The older brother. Yeah, that would be hilarious. Where it's like, yeah, I'm a cop in Detroit.
He was
and then I play
horribly injured
Dota
in the line of
evening.
duty. He was
Oh,
reformed
no.
as a
That's not
robot.
it.
Yeah,
That is not a thing.
That's where he picks up his street smarts.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Right. Pulling and stacking the lane. That's
Yep.
where he learns how to bust, perps.
Sure.
Bustin' perps.
But he was. I don't know. That was a weird thing. Detroit is a weird place.
Yeah.
It's like it's an easy punching bag. It kind of makes me sad. Don't punching bag Detroit so hard because it's like
Detroit's kind of cool.
it's a place
You can survive
and
it.
it's also like it's important to like America's history and I don't know. I don't want to like bring it down.
I got a
but-
documentary recommendation, guys. Detropia. It's an
Detropia.
amazing,
I have not
beautifully,
seen it yet.
beautifully shot documentary about.
My fiance backed
Detroit.
that documentary on Kickstarter.
It's great. It's really
and
great.
She was like
On Netflix.
Let's watch this.
Check it
I'm
out.
like, cool. I wanna
She's never
see it.
backed any of your games, but she backed that.
No, why would she back my games? She
She's
backs
just-
me.
It's not like she's gonna play them.
That was sweet.
Get the fuck
She's
out of here.
awesome. She's the best.
So other than coming on
Okay.
to ridiculous live streams and pimping
Yeah.
Massive Chalice, what have you been up
That's
to at E3?
That's really it.
Oh,
We've
he's
been like
done.
taking a lot of interviews, like hanging
I saw you
out,
doing an
walking
interview earlier.
around. I've been taking a lot of selfie videos of my buddies, and it's been that's been awesome. We hope
Brad
to get
learned
that out
the
as a
word
backer
selfie last
update.
week. He
I
loves
love
it.
the word selfie. I learned that a couple months ago. I didn't even know that was
Sounded
a
like
thing.
last week in the
and
store.
it's like my favorite word now. It's great.
Selfie doesn't.
Never met a-
Selfie doesn't have to be a bad word.
It's so great. So, yeah, also just, I've been getting stopped randomly by, like, backers in the hallways of E3.
Yeah.
And that part has been, like, super amazing. Like, just to, like, it's super humbling to, like, walk around and be like, hey, you're the guy that got vomited on in that Tim Schafer video. And I'm like, yes, I am! Holy shit! Oh my god, amazing. It's really cool. So I've been taking a lot of pictures with backers, and that's been super great.
I should say
it's a great
that
process.
we were planning on having Tim Schafer in here, but
I know,
he has been crippled by some
he has like some crazy
brainstorms.
migraine stuff.
I was.
going on.
clouds.
So he's not
Oh, I
actually
don't.
gonna make it to
I don't
E3.
know
I'm
if
really
I don't know if we should talk about this.
Wow.
I was really upset when I saw he had been swimming at Yosemite.
Oh, yeah, let's not go into that.
Okay.
Let's not talk about it. So
Yeah.
Brad introduces something
Yeah.
totally
Let's not-
mysterious.
Who are you, the new John Vignacchi? I definitely shouldn't talk about this. So here's the story that I'm not talking about. Can't do that shit.
I just hope that he's all right.
They had some viral issues at Yosemite a couple years ago. That's all.
Shut up.
Yep, you're doing
He'll be
it.
fine.
Shut up.
Okay.
He'll be fine. Don't worry about it.
want to talk about
He just opened the box. There's no closing it at this point.
Does no one
so-
have any self-restraint?
Look,
on
I
this
don't
live stream?
like knowing this. All right.
It's just a fact.
Brad Shoemaker, Yosemite doctor.
Figure it out.
I
We're
would
in
watch that.
2013.
Brad Shoemaker is going to kill Tim Schafer.
We have
at this point. That's
human,
what's gonna happen.
All right.
we have human doctors that can figure this shit out.
Brad and Brad.
Brad off.
Oh shit!
I'm going to give
breaking
you
Brad.
guys a solid minute to talk
Oh, God.
about Dota.
Brad Muir, this is the longest I have. This is
and
shut
I'm telling you
up!
all-
Shut
Hold
up!
on,
Shut
hold on.
up!
Set the timer.
Shut it down.
This is the longest I have been away.
I love Dota.
This is the longest.
Yeah.
No, this is
I'm setting
the.
the timer.
Are you getting the
And
shake?
I've already
This is-
gone.
Set alarm.
This is
you
the
getting
longest I
shakes?
have been away from Dota since I started playing Dota.
I know. I'm
Like,
worried because I feel like I was the one that introduced you to this game, and I feel kind of responsible for what happens to you now.
so I haven't been on a
How's your
computer
carpal tunnel?
really. So I feel like the nerves are fusing back together in my
Okay.
wrists since
Which
I.
is good or bad?
I think it's a good thing.
Okay,
like
good. That sounds good. Just don't shake your head no. You want his nerves to be separated forever? It's good.
If it
It's good.
refuses, he's just gonna break it again. It'll be worse this time.
On the downside,
Constant pain is the only way we survive.
Maybe that's good for him.
on the
then.
downside, I was going to make a joke about Puck earlier, and then I couldn't remember
Yeah.
if his name was Puck or not.
His name's Puck.
It is Puck. Puck is
Yeah.
a character. Yeah.
Yeah, Puck is totally a Dota 2 character.
I gotta go home.
Really good solo mid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, right?
Exactly.
You got that weird little phase thing,
Yeah.
and you
it's
shoot
good.
that ball that goes
Yeah.
flying.
Yeah.
That thing is pretty cool.
Yeah, and then you can jaunt to it, jaunt to that orb.
Yeah.
You know, people know what I'm talking about.
All right, time's up. That was the Dota minute.
Oh, that was unfucking
That was
bearable.
insufferable.
Oh,
You
That
nerd.
game's excellent.
Brought to you
So
by
also,
Skullgirls.
I've not been able to play any Dota since we launched the Kickstarter. And it's
I know.
No, you're
you've
still
been-
talking about it. You have to stop now.
No, this is the human
this
interest
is-
part.
Yeah, yeah. I'm allowed to talk about this.
What is this?
Finally, the human angle.
Polygon human element? Yeah, this thing. Well played. Well played.
If
You beat me
we're,
to
or
it.
if we're able to talk about Music Evolved for like fucking 30
You
minutes.
shit on it for the entire time we were
We
talking
never
about it.
talked about the game.
Yeah,
We
you haven't
never
talked
the
about your
name
game
of
at all.
it.
We
You
sat
said
here
massive
quietly.
challenge. Go to the website.
While you yammered on about God knows what.
Dota's
you didn't say-
not your game.
You didn't say a fucking thing about video games the entire time you were
All you
talking.
know is some. Well,
Well, there it is.
Oh, there's a
You did it, Jeff.
big orange spreading puddle over
gee,
here.
you might have to get up and stop talking about.
That's what
Dota
happens
for
whenever I
paper
hear about
towels in the bathroom.
Dota. A giant orange spreading puddle forms
you, you have
yeah.
you have been missed.
So Massive Chalice.
Yeah, it's a good game.
Can I ask a question
Tactical
about
strategy.
Can I ask a
I'm really
question about
excited
Massive
about
Chalice?
it. Yeah.
Was Phantasy Star 3 in any way an inspiration for this game?
We talked about it, but Phantasy Star 3 has a very like discrete system of generations, right? It's
Okay.
like you play through sort of the first act, and due to your actions, that determines who the children are. gonna
who
be in
has
Act
children,
2,
and
right?
yeah, okay.
And like we're going with a more like simulation-y based
Okay.
kind of thing, where like the timeline is like very analog, and you like put the characters together, and then they have a chance of having children.
Big
as the timeline
dynamic
flows.
family tree.
Exactly,
Okay.
yeah. And it's like, you know, they can have a chance of having children as the timeline is flowing. And so
Okay.
it's like, that way you won't be locked in. Like, you'll have to really think about, like, the staggered ages of all your characters so that
Okay.
you don't, like, get too many stacked up around the same age.
Is each character going to have a fertility rating?
We've talked about that.
Yeah?
Like, it... there's some weird
will
there's
there
some
be
weirdness
will
there.
you have sterile fighters?
You don't get to eye roll about gameplay systems
Like
over
I
there,
really, I
Harmonix.
really do want to have that, especially
Magic.
through the demonic technology stuff. that we're talking about, right?
Wait, so the
Oh,
demon-
like in Fantasia?
Are you saying the
Music Evolved?
demons can sterilize the?
a magic
No,
system.
no, no,
Cut
no.
their
So
mics, right? We just have a whole
you
side
by
conversation. No one even
by
hear them, right?
capturing and researching and then choosing to use the.
I'm not
demon
rolling my eyes.
technology,
My retinas
you
are
might
detached from
sterilize
the
some of
tank.
your own warriors.
Oh,
some of your own
okay.
heroes. So it'll be a
Rods
choice,
and
right?
cones
It's
that
like
have been replaced by fucking
it's like
caffeine.
you can commit to like the really powerful demonic technology, but it might like taint the bloodline so that it will end in a few generations or something.
I think they call that depth.
No, like what you have explained to me about this game sounds crazy ambitious.
It's it's ambitious. It's not crazy ambitious.
Well, if what you're talking about is like
He's
a
got
real
4 people, it'll be
four-person
fine.
team, like
Oh no! I'm sorry. Just to be clear, that is just the team for now.
that's
for
the seed
Kickstarter.
team,
Okay, okay.
right?
We're gonna ramp it up to about a dozen at the peak of production, and that's how we've like.
I just worry you're gonna kill
was
11
that?
people trying to make this game. It sounds like a really intense game.
Like we made trench and stacking and costume quests on teams that were like about a dozen people. Like,
Really?
We have really, we have really mature technology. We have like really experienced people. Like we don't have a lot of green people. Like I'm not, that's not an indictment.
How
It's
much
just
Malaysia
like,
outsourcing
It's
is
just like,
there?
look, it's like we've grown the studio. We have little turnover. It's like everyone's experienced with the engine. We try to be as efficient as possible. Like we can make good games with small teams. Like
But
I think we've proven that.
This still like on a mechanical level seems a lot deeper and a lot more ambitious than the kinds of mechanics that I think most people associate with the Double Fine name. To me, that was like when you were first telling me about this game. I was like, this sounds awesome. This sounds like an amazing Brad Muir game. But this sounds also at the same time like this continued divergence of kind of what people associate with the Double Fine name.
I think that part is awesome. though. I think-
That's what's been exciting about this for me is that coming to know you as I have, being like a big fan of Dota and StarCraft and stuff. Like you're a big numbers guy, you're a big balance guy, like you're like a big hardcore game mechanics and design guy.
Dota in this
Yeah,
conversation.
it's
And, like,
kind
that's not-
You just totally worked Dota into it, which I appreciate.
Yeah. And
But
that-
like, I think that part is really awesome because that was actually why I came to Double Fine in the first place because I was like I really like Tim Schafer's games, but it's like I like a lot of different kinds of games, but I'm personally just the kind of games that I want to design are more like mechanics focused.
Right,
and
and
stuff.
that's not an area that Double Fine has traditionally been like very super strong in.
Right,
you know?
and sort of like interviewing at Double Fine and thinking about coming here, I was like, man, it feels like Tim Schafer really needs the like mechanics guy to like come in and like help out with that.
So
part
modest.
Of it. Right. Wow, that is so shitty the way that I said that.
So modest.
But like
Tim Schafer's a genius, except for this thing he's terrible at. That I can
And
be
that
so
viral
He needs his
infection.
games to not suck anymore, so here's Brad
the
Muir
games-
to finally fix
The
everything.
games are great, except for all the things that he's terrible at doing.
everybody, look, everybody's got areas of focus.
Fuck.
And mine, I focus on the low-level mechanics, and he focuses more on the high-level story and world and fiction.
I mean,
generation
Tim
and
Schafer
stuff.
would never
Like,
have made Iron Brigade.
Right.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm saying is that I think that he, it's like everybody has different areas that they focus
Trench
on and
is
stuff,
gold.
and I don't think I'm backpedaling on that or whatever. We talk about that. I talk about that with him.
You
know?
sound like
It's
you're backpedaling, just for what it's worth.
I will come over there so quickly.
Jump over the desk, motherfucker. Let's do this.
But I think it's cool.
Like it's an episode of The Wire. Just at some point, someone has their fill. Bunk
I
just
will
fucking
throw
loses
this
it.
four-wheeler at
These
you.
desks are balsa wood. Don't stand
But
on
I
it.
know, I realize
cool
it doesn't
that we
put my
both-
pressure
we
on
can
it.
both make
Put my pressure on
games
it.
under the same roof, and
Sure.
it's cool. And he's definitely still my boss, but let's make that clear.
Maybe not tomorrow.
But yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe. But
Now it's Tim Schafer's Massive Chalice, fuckers.
A story-driven game with 0 numbers. I know, I saw.
But I think
That's
it's
why I'm so
awesome that
laughing.
he's making Broken Age, which is gonna be amazing, and it's very story focused, very narrative driven.
Well, yeah,
and stuff.
that's a game that plays to his strengths.
Yeah, and I
this sounds
feel like
a game
Massive
that-
Chalice is a game that plays to my strength,
Yeah,
and it's
sure.
cool that we can make both of those things under the same roof, and it's cool that he's open to the fact that he wants to have multiple games run by multiple different people inside the studio, and that's awesome. I'm privileged to be one of those people that can actually run a team, and it's cool that I I don't also have to make an adventure game, you know? He's like willing to listen when I'm like, I've got this fucking idea that's like, it's like Final Fantasy Tactics in XCOM, and then you get some Game of Thrones in there, and then everybody dies. And
Brad-
he's like, yes.
Brad, how much
Sounds good. Let's take it to Kickstarter. And I'm like, sweet.
How much was Tim greenlighting that as a thing you could take to Kickstarter just to get you to stop talking about it? Like 80%? 60%?
55.
Okay,
Cool.
good.
I'll give it more than 50. No, I mean, really, like, we hadn't, like, I'd been pitching Brazen all year, you know, it was a real focus on, like, that game, and we pitched that to everybody under the sun, and we got very far with deals with a lot of different publishers. Like, I pitched that to everybody who was willing to listen. And
we almost published it. It would have been
did.
great.
We did not talk to you. Although Alex Rogopoulos,
he loves you, man. He backs the shit out of your
He backed
games.
Massive Chalice at an exorbitant amount of money, and that's awesome.
He could probably just do a publishing fund deal with you, and it'd probably be cheaper for him in the end.
That would have been good. Yeah, no, actually,
He'd actually
money
share the
back on that
profits.
one.
Yeah, exactly.
But like, yeah, we talked to everybody about the game, and we got it. It wasn't like everybody was sort of like, nah, that idea is terrible. Like, fuck that, we're not making that game. It was like, you know, we got very far in talks with several publishers, and it was like very promising. And you know, the P&L looked my P&L looked awesome.
The way you said that.
Stop talking about Dota.
No.
No.
You don't want me to talk about P&Ls? It looks really good. Fuck you, Bailey. That's our business.
No, I want
contact
John
there.
Drake to explain
So,
P&L.
so our P&L looked awesome.
I want to hear the creative.
I had to
guys
learn
say
about
it.
that, and we made it, and I was like, yeah, like this game's.
What is P&L?
this
I have
is
no
it.
idea what P&L is.
It's all about numbers. It's a
Profit
system. When
and
you
loss.
play online with other people.
Profit and loss.
Okay.
This is
a
sort
balance
of
sheet.
it's a spreadsheet so that you're like,
Okay.
does funding this game make sense
Okay.
to us as
Will
a
it make
business
money?
unit?
It's
Will
a
we
giant,
make more
it's a
money
giant
than we
guess.
lose?
It's like, hey,
It's
will
a
we make
giant
money?
guess.
And then the
That's
accounting guys
exactly
are like,
what it is.
yeah. P&L, it's gonna be great. And
So
you're
guess
like,
what?
okay,
My
it's
giant
imaginary.
Guess, my giant guess says, if you sign Brazen for this amount of money, you'll make a hell of a lot more than that. What do you think? And then they run their own, and they're like, grumble. But they're like, Brad Muir, I don't think you have an MBA.
This game is the next
And you know
League
what?
of Legends.
And you know what? You're fucking right. I don't. So that's the thing.
Thank God for that.
But yeah, we pitched to a lot of people, and like it just, man, we got really far several times, and then it was just like it just didn't happen. And it sort of kind of ran out of people to talk to, and it was like, shit, okay, cool. Like, what are we gonna do now? And Tim was like super supportive. He was just like, yeah, you know, it happens, whatever, fuck it. Like, you got any more ideas? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I got this one. What do you think? And I pitched it to him. And I had never like really pitched it to anybody. It was something that, I don't know, it's just been rattling around my head for a while. And it was really the new XCOM game where like playing the new XCOM, I was like, holy shit. I was like, this fucking fantasy XCOM thing, like people are going to love this thing. This is a thing now. Like, and so, you know, I pitched it to him. I was like, yeah, maybe what do you think about this? And he's like, yeah, cool. He's like, you want to pitch that to publishers? I'm like, nope. And I'm like, do you? He's like, nope. I'm like, all right, well, cool. And then he's like, and then it was like later, he's like, yeah, what if we kickstart that thing? And I'm like, that's not gonna work.
So Brad, I have a
I
question.
was like, I don't know if that'll work. Like, nobody knows who I am. We haven't finished Broken Age. Like, it's a new IP. Like, that's crazy. And he's like, it'll totally work. Don't worry about it. And he was like, and it's funny because everybody on the team, like I'm a big warrior.
Yeah.
And like a lot of people on the team are like big warriors. And Tim is like
warrior or warrior?
Both.
He's a warrior.
I would
He's a
say
warrior
I would
poet.
say both. I would say both.
You're a weird mirror and a warrior.
Warrior.
Okay.
What is wrong
Worrying
with you?
warrior. Yes,
The Detroit
I'm a
accent.
It's a
warrior.
homonym.
It is.
Homonym,
It really is my Midwest
it's
accent.
Malaysian background.
A fire. When you get trapped in a fire, my fiance hates how I say the word fire.
Fire?
Yeah.
Fire.
Fire.
No, you're doing
Fire.
it.
I don't know.
Might be
Fire.
fire.
Do you say
Fire
roof?
over here.
Fire.
No, the fire's on
Fire?
the
Are you
roof.
saying fire?
Anyway,
How do you say water?
water.
Okay.
There are
Water.
people that give you the water.
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 The warsh.
Water.
Do you say soda or pop?
Or Coke.
I used to say pop religiously until I moved here. Now I say soda.
I say
It's cool.
Diet Coke.
What is?
What were we talking about though? Because that was important. I felt like
You were
that was
talking
going
about
to
pitch
be-
XCOM. You're talking about XCOM. You're going on and on about
Yeah.
XCOM.
So like I worry about stuff. a
And
lot.
everyone's so worried about
Excellent.
XCOM or something.
No,
Dota,
it's
I
like
don't know.
like I was really worried about
nightmare
launching
machine
this
of an
thing
interview.
and like so were people on the team and it's like holy shit.
Jeffrey.
And like Tim Schafer is just like he's just like, it's totally gonna work. You know, he had this like, trust me, it's totally gonna work.
Yeah.
This is a great idea. He's like, we're gonna cut a great video, and he was like, here's my idea for the video, and he pitches me the projectile vomiting scene, and I'm like, man,
Great.
I'm like, that's it. I'm like,
great.
you got it. I was like, that's yes. And then
So I was going to
and
ask
we did
you if you know, now that the prophecy has been fulfilled, if you're at all scared, but it seems like you guys are.
I am like the opposite. Like I was super scared pressing the button, and it's funny because I call it the big red button, but actually on Kickstarter, it's a big green button. It has a little rocket ship on it. It says launch next to it. It's very nice.
Yeah.
It's very nice, and I love that it's not. Yeah.
Were
it's
you
not like
scared?
a
Were you scared
whatever.
though about the perception of like you said, you're still working on the game that you just kickstarted.
You haven't shipped a game on Kickstarter yet. Why should we trust you?
So the really cool thing about that,
Hard
that I
hitting
think
questions,
that-
guys.
that I
Has
think-
there been a line of code written yet?
No,
People want to know.
But that's fine. We already talked about that.
I know. I was making
the thing about that part, about the Broken Age thing that I think really helped is that the two-player productions, the documentary crew that's been like embedded in Double Fine, they're fucking awesome. Like those guys are amazing. It's 3 dudes and an intern, and they're just incredible, the work that they do. Like you should back Broken Age and like watch all those episodes. They're awesome. Like I totally love those guys. You know, they've been doing that documentary the whole time, like monthly episodes for the whole thing of Broken Age, and it's like you can see the whole process. And like I haven't been in those videos. Like I'm not working on that team. I have nothing to do with that game. And I think that went a long way to like trying to like be like hey, like we have other teams at Double Fine. Like Brad is, you know, hopefully gonna lead one of them. Like that's how it's gonna work. And I think that really helped with like, you know, just having people trust us that like we're not bullshitting people, you know. It's like we're just trying to be open and honest about like how we run our business and how we want to like connect with the community and stuff. And it's like, yeah, I mean it's weird because I feel like there are a lot of corporations in the video game industry that do a lot of shady things, and it's like they're not transparent about what they're doing, and you're like it's confusing. So I think that there is a maybe like level of distrust for gamers in general, but like we've tried to be really open about like what's happening, what we're doing, and stuff. So
Well, I think also with with regards to Kickstarter and what that has to do with game publishing and development, like the Double Fine thing's the first biggest thing. Broken Age is the first biggest thing that's come out of that, and since it isn't out yet, like no one really knows like does this thing work? Like it's kind of wishing a prayer on the whole thing of like this seems like this might be a model that could work for getting projects made that might not find publishing in it.
And that part's super interesting because a publisher might spend,
John Drake?
No, go ahead.
A publisher might spend $3 million funding a game and getting it, halfway, 3/4 through development, and then be like, this game's fucking terrible, and then they axe it, the public never hears about it, and they write it off as a loss, and like that's something that happens all the time,
Sure.
So it's like it's just interesting that it's public from the very beginning.
Well,
and
for us, that's been a challenge, on the press side of having to make the calls of like, all right, when do we deem these games to be games? Like when does Massive Chalice actually exist? Like for our purposes, again, because so much stuff. Mirror's Edge 2 has been launched and canceled by all accounts like half a dozen times internally at EA, but no one's ever heard a thing about that really publicly. So that there's a ton of other projects of things that are so close to getting made or so close to getting at least greenlit within an organization, and then just it doesn't quite come together for whatever reason. So for that to be so public from the start, like it makes it this weird moving target for us. Like, okay, sure, we'll say that we're gonna cover this, we're gonna pay attention to this, and then I guess at the same time that happens to games that publishers announce as well. Games, publishers announce games and then they don't go anywhere.
They just evaporate. But I mean, the thing that I think is really interesting is like the conception that the funding level of a Kickstarter game, like the funding level of Broken Age or of Massive Chalice, is like that's the total budget of the game, and hooray, that's like they've already broken even. And in fact, like no, the scope is going to creep up when Broken Age got as big as it did. I'm sure that they added resources and expanded the team a little bit, and because of the expectations, it means that I think the real test is not actually can it get backed and can it get funded enough to start the project, but actually when it launches, and will people beyond the people who back the game buy it and sort of add above that line to be like a pile on? Can it make money? And that's where it becomes a thing that's not a like video game wish list thing, but it's in fact a business model where it's like, hey, if you can get through the first 60% of development and you're on the downhill slope of like this is a game that works, it's a game you're covering, it's a game that like doesn't need huge market organization because there's like 600 people who are talking about it every day in the backers forums.
Yeah,
but it's a fucking way we can make video games.
We need two things. just as an industry from the Kickstarter model.
Sure.
Is we need our first big win and we need our first big loss. We need a game to get a lot of funding and to actually come through.
You mean a big loss too? Because I've already had a couple Kickstarters fall apart.
Because
That's
you need
terrifying.
because you need to establish the parameters.
Yeah, what happens if
you need to
that
establish
happens?
some kind of parameter?
Also,
because you need to have
yeah,
you need
I
to,
would
you
say
need
though,
to-
When you say big loss, you mean a game that comes through, like
Gets
gets
funded.
funded,
And it's
and
visible.
then just either fizzles out entirely or just fails.
either
everything.
doesn't deliver on expectations or does not come to fruition at all.
But I think that
because this is the thing that can happen with Kickstarted games.
Yeah.
They can people can sink their money into it.
That's the thing about Kickstarter though, is that like there is an inherent risk associated with like backing any project.
Sure.
Like that's
It's
the thing,
faith
and it's
for
and,
all
and it's
involved.
faith and it's trust and like. That's the thing that's really cool is that you're asking, we're really asking for the community.
So faith-based game development is what we're talking about.
Hold on.
Because
You go, but I'm gonna
Yeah, I would say that is what we're talking about.
'Cause, I mean, look,
that,
just
that absolutely is what we're talking about. And
Take
there
a-
are some people that like, you look at the numbers, the backer numbers. That's what I'm looking at, right? Compare those to the sales numbers of a game that is deemed successful.
Yeah.
And there's like an order of magnitude at least, right? Maybe 2 when you're looking at a Call of Duty game or whatever. It's like we've got 24,000 for Massive Chalice, which is amazing, and you're all very awesome and handsome, and I love you all. But it's like compare 24,000 to like 25 million Call of Duties.
If you sold
or whatever.
24,000 copies of a game at $60, that game would be like an abject failure, right on its face. Like there's.
Well, I mean, depending on what the
Depending on
budget
the
was,
budget.
but yes,
Well,
if you were, if it had a normal sort of AAA-ish budget, and then you sold 24,000 copies,
You're comparing it to AAA games.
it would be a complete failure. Yes, like that is absolutely true. Like
The
I don't
thing-
think there's any doubting that.
The thing
but-
we're still wrestling with now is this whole faith-based proposition, because we haven't seen many of these games come to fruition at all. I mean, you're still working on Broken Age, and this.
I am not.
Well, your team,
Okay.
your
Yes,
studio
Double Fine
is still working on Broken
Yeah.
Age. Like today, I talked to Dennis Dyack. I
Yes.
talked to them about Shadows of Eternity. Like Patrick did an interview, and we talked to them, and it's like they had their crowdfunding thing, and they had to cancel both of those. They had to refund
Right.
a bunch of money. They're trying to reorganize. Like, there's no faith there. That's why
Right.
that shit isn't working. Is because Dennis
Right.
Dyack had, and you can see him trying to be contrite now, like trying to say, "Look, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I've changed. Like, we have this thing. Like,
Right, but he's burned a lot of credibility, right?
because
He
he's burned
doesn't
so many
have that
bridges.
same trust.
And
But
you
what's,
haven't
what's
done-
gonna,
like,
but what's going to
right,
happen?
You guys haven't done that.
What's going to happen is someone with a lot of that credibility is going to betray it.
Yeah.
Yes, but I think what you're talking about is we need like a Kickstarter huge success, but we also need like not a Kickstarter failure, but a Kickstarter like disaster where it goes like pretty like they're updating back. It feels like it's going along. Because I've already had a couple Kickstarters that have fallen apart that I've backed, especially in the games world. It's disappointing. But even the Dennis Dyack thing, like I don't really even know what you're talking about. Like it's a news story.
I want a
I
reality
know about that
check.
Kickstarter, but I mean I don't have like that. That's not a big headline for
What's
me. Right?
sad is that game's demo actually genuinely looks kind of impressive.
Okay.
Like they've done some interesting
Right.
things with it, but because of the sour nature of people's perception of him and just those guys and everything that happened with Silicon
an uphill
Knights,
battle, right?
it's
Yeah.
going to be really hard for them to get
right,
people back on
right,
their side.
right.
Well, look, we've had enough multi-million-dollar Kickstarter game successes that within the next year to 18 months, we're going to start.
Yes.
But
Yes,
success.
you'll
We're going to
start
start
seeing it.
taking the temperature of this process.
But they
you
haven't
know?
shipped.
We're gonna.
No,
That's
but
what
he's
I'm
saying within
Oh,
12
that's what
days.
you- I'm
12
sorry,
to
I
18
thought-
Enough
months.
of them.
For the other side.
Enough of them
Like,
got backed in the
It will
last
become
year.
a lot
Right,
clearer.
yeah.
It will become a lot
But
clearer.
we have to. But
It's not just Broken Age. I
but
mean,
on a certain level, we have to wait for that.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
shoe to
yeah,
drop.
We just haven't gotten
it's
to those
it's
steps
kind of
yet.
too early. It's kind of too early to know for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
We
Like
haven't
that's
gotten to
like I completely agree, and we'll see. And
Well,
like
I hope nothing but obviously huge success for Massive
Thanks.
Chalice. I like the idea.
yeah, I hope. I mean,
I
we'll
hope
see.
it becomes a game someday.
It's gonna become a game. That's a thing that's going to happen.
Maybe we
Well,
should
I
write
have
some
faith.
fucking code then.
See, you have faith.
is the most.
Well, I'll write a line of code when I get out of here.
All right, seems like a bad idea.
I can just, you
Tap
know what?
it out on your
you know
phone.
what? I can
There you
totally
go.
just do it right here.
man.
I can totally just
Enhance.
do it right here.
On that
I don't,
note-
you gotta stop him, guys. He's writing
Bam.
code. It's out of control.
We're going to take another break,
Sell,
and we're going to come
buy.
back for a final segment with the full Giant Bomb staff. I'd like to thank Brad Muir from Double Fine, John Drake and Eric Pope from Harmonix, creators of Fantasia Music Evolved.
By the way, our game's actually pretty cool and great, and people should watch the quick.
The reaction has been great.
I've been kind of down because it's like I'm exhausted in C3, but actually I don't want to shit on our game. The game is actually really awesome. The team's cranking along.
Well, I mean,
We got a GameSpot game of show
We've finally
award.
done what you didn't, which is show the game to people.
Thank
so,
God.
Yeah, one of
so
the
they can,
12.
they can
booked
see
the
that.
appointment.
No, I just mean as far as your marketing goes. So
Hey man, not me. I'm doing PR. I'm doing this shit. I'm wearing shower clothes.
Fair enough. All right, we'll go lather up, and we'll make those videos in a second.
We'll hug
but
you in a little bit.
We'll be back in a little bit with the Giant Bomb staff for final segment here tonight. End of day 2, E3 2013. Brad Muir, one more thought.
MassiveChalice.com. My business guy is applauding off screen right now.
I'm not turning down the
Thank you.
microphones. Vinny, take us out.
Wait,
Andy,
I wanna
take us out.
I wanna say.
All right, we're back for one more segment here. End of E3 2013, day 2.
You should have just said end of E3 2013, and then we all just sign off.
Yeah, we
Like
didn't have
that's
to do
it.
the show tomorrow night.
That's it. Turns out the show last day was canceled.
No, instead we're going to talk here as succinctly as we can about the stuff that we've been seeing. Obviously, Patrick and Brad both have been seeing some thunderous success with the interview dump truck.
Number 5.
Number 5 on the
Radio
iTunes.
Lab.
I think it's
Got
mostly Patrick's
nothing on
stuff,
me.
but I'll ride the coattails.
Yeah, do it.
Get on. Get on.
I did
Everyone
that-
get on. The dump truck is big. It encompasses all.
I did that one at the Microsoft thing. I contributed. That.
Brad Shoemaker, what have you seen?
We're all
today at
proud
E3?
of our contribution.
What haven't I seen?
What have you actually seen at E3?
I
today?
went. Let's see. I did a booth tour at Nintendo. I did 2 tours at Sony. Although I guess we can only talk about one of them.
Okay.
Saw everything Bethesda had.
What are the highlights?
I think
give
that was
me
it.
2 big highlights from what you saw today. What's the stuff that has impressed you from the show today?
I really liked Puppeteer for the PlayStation 3.
I caught you earlier today.
So last thing I played today.
Remember the PlayStation 3?
Yeah.
There's still games coming out for
There's
it.
several and cool ones. It sounds like
That
Yeah,
one-
you came away super impressed by Puppeteer.
That one's $40, and it's for the PS3, and I liked it more than the PS4 stuff that I saw.
Yeah.
You
also saw Knack.
Yes, I played Knack. Knack's kind of cool. I mean,
Let's not move past Puppeteer.
Okay,
yes.
talk about
let's
Puppeteer.
The thing I like about it is just that they lean as heavily into the actual presentation of these puppets being puppeteered as they can. Like there's, I don't want to call it a laugh track, but there is an audience response. Like you hear people laughing in the audience at things that are happening. Like you can clearly hear there is an orchestra in a pit in front of the stage playing music along with the things that are happening. Like it's just the whole aesthetic is really cohesive. It all fits together really well. It looks super nice.
And all like the objects, like the characters, the enemies, all look like they're carved out of wood.
Yeah.
Like they have this really amazing look to them.
Like there's a tactile look to everything. It looks
Totally.
like everything looks like it's made out of real materials.
Yeah, like claymation is it's not claymation, but in the same way that claymation feels like tactile and real, like they are doing something similar, but like with wood,
And
but like they're not
cloth- and
scanning
cloth
objects,
and
but like
stuff, yeah.
and the cloth. So like this game, like when you go up, like the guy described, like there's several producers that are like, here's how the game works, here how the controls work. Like, have you played Little Big Planet? And Little Big Planet's a pretty good analogy, but it's an analogy of like, what if Little Big Planet didn't play like horribly?
Yeah, this is
and
a
like
better
what was
platformer
fun
than
to
that.
play. And I think when we talked about Tearaway, I was like, I have an immense respect for Media Molecule. Love a lot of things about Little Big Planet, but not the way it plays. And like this plays kind of like a Little Big Planet game, but like so the combat, like which comes at the end of the tutorial level, is this pair of scissors, and every time you mash on the square button when you launch the scissors, he just keeps going in that direction. And so one of the first bosses you come to is just like this kind of like skeleton creature that has a giant cloth underneath it, and then you have to like try and cut off that cloth from him, and that's how you go through like the stages of like hit the weak point. So just like cut off the cloth again, but you'll like cut off like one section, and then he'll move down, and then like you get knocked off, and then you have to jump up on again, and then like cut off the rest of his cloth. Like it is just kind of like Tearaway, like just supremely clever.
Yeah.
And
the core mechanic seems to be you're a marionette who loses his head during the intro, and he can't exist without a head. So you find other heads. So like in the first 2 minutes, you find a skull, and then also like a spider head that you put on there, and whatever head you have equipped determines what kind of power you have. Whatever magic you can use.
I mean, if nothing else, like that brief little trailer they ran during the Sony press conference for the game, which they gave like no explanation for. It just sort of happened in a weird vacuum in between a couple other things. But if nothing else, conveyed a sense of whimsy.
Yes.
That I feel is missing from a lot of publishers.
Yeah, that was very evident even in the little bit of writing and voiceover that I heard, and again, like the musical cues that are coming from like what sounds like an actual orchestra in front of the game and that stuff. It all just fit together really well.
And again, Sony's still supporting the PlayStation 3.
Yeah,
significantly.
And that game's $40, so that's nice to see.
And yeah, you said that was the game that you came away from your time at the Sony booth most impressed.
Yeah, Tearaway also seemed pretty impressive.
Yeah,
like that,
Tearaway's cool.
Uses a lot of the features of the Vita in ways that don't feel gimmicky. They feel like they fit into this weird, surreal kind of world that they built.
And they do use some rear touch, but it's not very specific. It's very clear about the visual cues you need to execute tasks. But then later on, you're basically just like pounding it like a drum to jump. Right. And you don't need to hit a specific spot, so they get around some of that stuff.
I liked that all the drum heads, when you needed to hit the rear touch, were textured like the pattern on the rear touch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they all have that pattern of triangle, square, circle, whatever. Like it's very obvious what you need to do when you see that stuff.
It's just really cute.
Everything
about it is really adorable.
Cool. Nice art,
what else, Brett?
At Sony or just in general?
Just in general.
Oh gosh, let's see. We went to Nintendo. What did we do at Nintendo?
What else?
What was your other highlight?
What's the other game that jumped out at you today from what you saw? Because obviously we're going to have videos of a lot of the tours and so on, so folks can catch that later. I just want to capture your feelings on stuff that they're not going to see otherwise.
I was hoping it would be The Evil Within, and me and Patrick put up a podcasty thing in the dump truck about that, and it does look really solid, but it didn't like blow the doors off in the way that I kind of hoped it would. As far as like all right, they're bringing survival horror back, like they're going to revitalize the whole genre.
It seems like most of that demo is a dude limping away from a single large bad man.
It was only until the very last 5 minutes when they start really playing with the backgrounds and what's real and what's this guy's fractured psyche, where you're in this hellscape and all of a sudden it flashes to white and then everything's clear and clean and that stuff seemed neat. They could play with that stuff in some interesting ways, but otherwise it felt fairly standard for that genre. I don't know. Nintendo had stuff.
I think Super Mario
Nintendo
3D
games.
World is potentially cool.
It seems really well put together.
Yeah.
Gosh, I still really wish they were just making a Galaxy 3 though.
I wish that game was in 3D because it is using some of the same perspectives as 3D Land.
Right.
Sure.
But there's we were playing 4-player. We got into a boss fight. And it was just hard to judge, where you were jumping. Especially you're jumping, you're in front of. There's stuff in front of you.
Right.
And you're jumping up here to something that's even behind you there. So there's no chance to see your shadow in that point. And usually you could use that to judge where on the in the world you are. But since they're blocking that too, you're left with no frame of reference.
Right.
And the camera's so zoomed out because it's trying to make sure you have all 4 players in frame. That's
maybe if you're playing solo, that's less of a deal.
And that's the thing. That game, I will not play that way unless it's a quick look or I've got friends over. The way I'm going to play that game is by myself, at most with my wife or a friend. So I didn't have a chance to play it by myself. I don't even know if that demo is capable of being played single player or if it changed. But I'm curious if they give you maybe additional camera controls or something that adjusts for hey, here's a more traditional single player experience.
When we were playing the main levels, it wasn't that bad.
No.
There
were just specific instances where you're just I'm not. There's something missing here. I'm not getting what I need. And also, they had us playing it with Wii remotes. And I thought that sort of sucked because you're using the D-pad and it's 8-way movement and stuff. You with the Wii pad, it seemed like you would have full analog motion.
It actually didn't seem like that. It seemed like it was more or less snapping to the 8 directions.
I don't like the way that felt.
Yeah,
because it is this big world. You're kind of expecting analog control out of it.
Sure.
You can play you can play with the gamepad, but
But it seemed like he did, and it seemed like
that's what you're saying.
I was on the gamepad.
Okay.
Move in
All
the
right.
directions.
Yeah.
So that
it's a little odd.
Yeah, I don't know that I care for that.
Alex, any highlights from today?
There were a bunch. It was a good day for seeing stuff. I liked most of the Nintendo stuff I saw. Bayonetta 2 looked really good.
Cool.
I like Mario Kart. I mean, it's more Mario Kart, but it
I thought
looked
it
really
looked
good.
really nice.
It really
visually,
sharp.
there's a cool style to it.
And the gravity-defying stuff is neat. When you're just kind of going up on walls, or the track is flipping you reverse gravity. It's pretty cool. I like that stuff. But I think in terms of like highlights, I played Tearaway finally. That is really, really great. I sat in on the DLC for, you and I sat on the DLC for Walking Dead.
We did?
That looks
400
pretty-
days.
Yeah, that looks pretty cool. You know, like
they're bridging the gap between seasons 1 and 2.
Sort of. So it runs parallel to the events of the first season, and I think there might be a cameo or two from some characters you recognize. But I think the idea is these characters. You were saying this, like this might be sort of test marketing in a way for characters that could feasibly end up in season 2.
Huh, okay.
You've seen how much they pay attention to stats for that stuff, so I imagine that probably has something to do with it. And then
who survives from the end of 400 days might dictate. Or
Yeah, they said like your saves from the first season, you'll want that. You want to play it on the same platform. That'll carry over.
Good to know.
That stuff from the DLC will carry over into season 2. So I'm a little bummed because like now I've got a PC. I'd rather play that on PC, but I'm gonna keep playing it on PS3 because I want that stuff to carry over. The DLC is largely in parallel with season 1, so that's how I think they're going to incorporate your save decisions from season 1 is like, well, maybe you left something over here, and then like a character runs into it during the DLC.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the DLC is super interesting because it's 5 characters, but it'll be the length of one episode. So we're talking maybe 4 hours, like max, I think. So you're talking maybe 40 minutes per character, and like they showed us like I think 20 minutes
20 minutes
of
of, like, one
character. And it's a guy who like the setup is he kills someone, you don't know who it is, it's kind of off camera, immediately cuts to him like being taken to prison. You're not really sure of the context. Like the first decision you have is like how you hide the evidence. You got like 4 different decisions, like throw it on the roof, throw it in a trash can. The game notes like I know what you did.
And the thing, I don't know if you caught this, it's at the drugstore. It's like that's happens right next to the drugstore from season 1. So like there's clearly some sort of connection.
But like like the beats it jumps to are like so fast because like it wants to give you like this sense of this character and an arc, but it happens so quickly. So like within 20 minutes, like you are put in like this horrifying situation. Like they have like learned what people responded to in the first season and have just amped it up to a degree that like you're just sitting there watching it, just going like I don't want to spoil it because I want people to experience it. But
I tensed up watching it, and I wasn't really I was sort of like just kind of watching, and then I felt myself clenching more and more as it got crazier and crazier.
Basically, the situation they set up without revealing how it works is you have to do something horrible. And like you have 2 people in front of you, and the really cool thing they do now, and I can't remember an instance where it happened in season 1, was that when you just point the cursor at them, the character starts yelling at you to give them like, this is why you shouldn't do this to me. This is why you should not do this to me. And then you pan it over to the other guy. You're not like picking a dialogue choice. It's just the game is like immediately responding to the
Making
cursor.
their personal pleas.
Yeah. And then eventually, the guy chose one, and it was fucked up.
Yeah, you have to choose. So
it's good. People are
some of that, like something, even just a little something to tide over for season 2, because I know it's going to take them a while to get.
Well,
that
they straight up said season 2 this year.
Yeah, so my guess is they're going to aim for October when the season comes back on AMC. So.
And then we also went to Ubisoft, you and me, and then I saw 3 different things. I like AC4, which looks really good, but is more AC. So that
what you saw was just a slightly extended demo of what they showed on stage at Ubisoft, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was exactly what it was. And then I played The Crew.
Yeah.
Which, God, I love the concept of that game. I just really didn't like driving in it. It's so squirrely and so hard to control that I.
What were you driving?
I drove a couple different cars. Like one was in like an off-road customized Mustang when I was driving around the desert, and then there was like this other off-road. I was doing the chase where you're on the beach.
Okay.
And you're driving around trying to catch this one dude, and it's just. There's still a little work to be done on the driving in that game, but premise-wise, it's awesome, and it seems like the online stuff executes exactly the way they say that it's going to. So that's cool. But South Park was the highlight for me out of that demo.
Yeah, I was bummed I didn't get to go see that. I ended up going and I caught the theater demo that they had for Watch Dogs, which was cool because they were showing non-mission stuff. They were showing open world stuff.
Cool.
They were kind of showing some of the PvP stuff that'll happen in there. And I ended up talking to the creative director of the game. We'll have an interview up somewhere during the show talking about some of the kind of mechanical stuff of how that's going to work. Talk to him a little bit about Tom Clancy's The Division because I think a lot of people started drawing some thematic comparisons between those two games.
Round Ball 2012.
And it sounded like those guys, or at least the Watchdog team, didn't know anything about that game until rehearsals for the Ubisoft press conference, which they said, hey, you want to know how we kept Watch Dogs secret? We didn't tell anyone about it. That's how we were able to make that such a big impression last year, so clearly that was the MO for the Division as well.
That was the tack.
Went into a Division theater demo. Disappointingly, the focus of the demo was going to be on part of the focus of the demo was going to be on the tablet integration stuff. They showed a little bit of that on the press conference, but there was a technical hitch during our session that kept that from working, so I didn't get to actually see that. So all I saw from the Division was just more of, or exactly the same of what they showed during the press conference.
Oh, okay.
But
which
again,
nonetheless looks impressive. But is
absolutely.
what we've
Again,
seen.
talked to a producer on that team and got them on camera, so kind of picked their brains a little bit about some philosophical things about that. But yeah, I thought both of those looked cool and also clearly differentiated enough as far as what the
seems like at least in mechanics they're very different,
absolutely.
very different. So
absolutely.
But so I was sad you didn't get to see the South Park demo because it is really really good.
Yeah, it's
funny. It's actually funny.
It's yeah.
So what about the combat though? I know the game is going to be funny, but the stuff I'm going to play, how does that work?
The combat is Super Mario RPG style. Active turn-based combat where you're as you're hitting them, you're hitting a button or you're stopping a spinning wheel or something like that. It's an active JRPG style combat system.
But is it like random encounters?
No, they're on the screen and you can basically there will be guys that you can fight, but then also some of them are part of puzzles where if you crawl through a vent or something like that and get behind them and have some flaming fart thing or whatever, you can eliminate them right there and not have to go into the encounter state to fight them. But the thing is that I think this is Obsidian does this kind of a lot to letting you kind of get around combat, but that'll cost you XP. You won't get the fight XP if you puzzle your way through a fight, which seems like sort of a weird. I
don't know. There might be instances where it's just I don't need this XP.
Yeah, maybe not.
And I mean, so the sequence they showed was, I guess, an early thing where they're still fighting over this, stick of truth thing or whatever. And so, you're working for Cartman against the elves who are Stan and Kyle and all of them. And so you're going through this school that's full of been barricaded by all of Stan and Kyle. So you're breaking down these different barriers. You're throwing shit at people.
That's right. You are taking a dump in a urinal.
You take a dump in a urinal, then you save that shit and you throw it at someone later. There's
Duke.
Ample fart humor. There's at least a couple of Nazi jokes in that early sequence. It's actually funny the way South Park is funny.
What does it look like when you're moving around between fights?
It looks like the show.
It looks like a point-and-click adventure game almost.
Yeah.
It has this side view thing, and I mean you have direct control over
Does
the
that mean
characters,
you have different camera angles and different scenes, and you're moving in and out of
some of the stuff will scroll, but then it'll be a door, walk to the next area. That'll.
Are you having characters move into and out of the background?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's remarkably seamless.
So it looks like the show, is what you're saying.
It looks a lot like the
more
show.
or less.
Are you is there?
The characters are rarely when you're running around. They are not as big on screen as they would be in a shot on the show.
But I'm saying animation, fidelity and quality, and the way the characters move looks very
just
similar.
As shitty as the show.
Yeah,
Alex,
it's really
anything
nice.
else?
That was pretty much it. There are a couple. I have a bunch of stuff on my list for tomorrow, so I'm going to go check that. I thought Nintendo's showing in general was pretty strong. So
cool.
Yeah.
Jeff, what's your highlights from today?
Well, let's see. I went over to Activision and saw Call of Duty Ghosts, and we shot an interview over there where we talked a lot about dogs. and the reaction, like the studio reaction to all the Call of Duty
dogs.
and Call of Duty dog stuff and all that sort of stuff. That was pretty interesting. I got to look at a few levels or a few different sequences from that game. It looks like they're only showing campaign. They're not really talking about multiplayer here, and it looks like a nicer looking Call of Duty game. The stuff they're showing has different pacing. So, the way they put it, the way Mark Rubin put it in the interview is, they're kind of deliberately showing stuff here that is not just mow down a billion dudes.
Sure.
Just to kind of prove, like, hey, the campaign's going to have some quieter moments, like some of the stuff that, Call of Duty 4 had with its, the stealth scenes and that sort of stuff. So, I don't know. I mean, it's a nicer looking Call of Duty game. You control the dog.
Yeah, I heard that.
How is the dog control?
It is this is real apparently. This is dog service dogs, Navy SEALs.
Yeah.
They've got vibrating collars and stuff that they can use to steer dogs in real life, and a little periscope thing on the dog's suit. And so how you're controlling the dog is you're bringing up a tablet like you would any other deployable in any other Call of Duty game.
Yeah.
And then it seems like you're just kind of walking the dog around and tearing throats out, but then the science behind it is he's got a collar that vibrates and a little thing in his ear, so it says hey, attack. The one thing that here's the thing that bums me out about Call of Duty Ghosts. They have finally closed the loop, and the two characters in the game are brothers. So it's finally the Call of Duty game where they're just constantly calling each other bro the whole time.
Oh.
And it's
a little too on the nose.
A little too.
They really mean it.
Yeah. And it's they're actual brothers. It's not. Just,
I know.
That makes it a little better. But it was a little too much.
Sure.
On some of that stuff.
I can see that. A little too Army 2.
Yeah. But tonally not. But it's more like go kill that guy, bro.
Got it.
Bro, do you remember how we used to do it back in the day, bro?
Yeah, it sounds exactly like Too Fast, Too Furious. No.
Damn
I don't know. It's interesting to see them kind of doing a new engine. I asked if there was any id Software code in there. Yeah. Didn't know. Did not know the answer.
Wow.
He said, well, maybe we should just put it in there, just like a fan service thing. I'm like, yeah, totally.
What, the copyright?
Yeah. Yeah.
You'd think somebody would know.
Yes,
somebody
I'm
probably
sure someone does.
But, eventually,
Mark Rubin did not have that answer. Not exactly the most common question he's been getting at the show,
but the most crucial one.
Yes.
Exactly.
Most important question of the entire show.
Yeah,
we should ask the Respawn guys that.
Well, they're using Source.
I know.
That'd be
exactly,
crazier.
Exactly.
If there was id Tech in there.
The Source engine originally based on Quake 1.
Yeah, I guess it is. I guess it is. So, and then I saw Destiny. Which it scratches a very Borderlands style itch in that they're going to have some guns that are going to be different depending on it's some slightly randomized guns. It's not going to be to the Borderlands extent.
Sure.
But you are leveling up. You are shooting guns. And kind of that wrapped around the kind of more robust multiplayer. Like that game is what I felt Borderlands 2 should have been, and what Borderlands 3 will probably be. Right? I mean, that's the.
I mean, if not in tone.
Beyond.
Yeah, not in tone. I just mean
but
conceptually.
Beyond the mechanical stuff and just the technological end of it, I just loved the way that game looked from the presentation and just aesthetically, technologically.
At the presentation, I thought it looked fine, but it didn't really jump out at me. And I feel like that's something that's happened to me a couple of times where. Going and looking at it on a goddamn television.
You said you went and saw Second Son.
Yeah.
That happened with more than one game. Yeah. Where seeing it in front of you on a real, actual display really drives home.
And with Destiny, it was like that as well. Like seeing the lighting and stuff through that whole, they ran through basically the whole demo from the press conference and then seeing the lighting and a lot of that stuff, it really jumped out.
Cool.
It's pretty cool.
I'm very excited about that game.
Yeah.
To me, surprisingly so, but yeah.
Yeah.
Just not having a huge Halo relationship and seeing a game that is, in so many ways, clearly not Halo.
Right. Yeah.
That to me is pretty exciting from Bungie. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think those are probably the two. I could look at my calendar and see what else I ran around and saw. Oh, you know what? I played Killzone.
What'd you think?
It is not your typical Killzone game.
How so?
Are we clear to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, there's color in it.
'Cause I had some thoughts also about that.
So Killzone is, it's this kind of Cold War story is what they're trying to tell.
Okay.
They didn't really show much of that in the demo, but Killzone is a pretty linear shooter.
Yeah.
Up to this point, it has been go to this point, do this thing, do this thing, do this thing. Here they are making it slightly more sandboxy, in that there is here's this optional comms tower. You can go over here, and if you take this out, then any other guard you see in this environment, when they go try to sound an alarm, they can't. So they can't call for reinforcements. So you can kind of do your dirty business. So giving you those kind of options, I thought was interesting for a Killzone game. Not the first time a shooter's done that, obviously. Sure. But the interesting thing is you have your Owl, which is it's a robot drone that will perch on your shoulder. I guess it's first person, so you never see that. And it has a handful of abilities. You saw that in some of the trailers, some of the footage stuff, where it's like a deployable shield or.
Okay, that's what that thing is.
Yeah.
Got it.
So it is also the thing that lets you zip line anywhere, as long as it's downhill and less than 50 meters. They were saying, it's like you just point at a spot, and if you have zip line selected, you can just deploy it right there and zip line to that spot, which I thought was kind of cool.
Just some
having these
speed
kind of
traversal.
dynamic zip lines, and then you can send it out to attack people and stuff. So selecting between those 4 powers, like it's the L1 button to do it, but you can actually just swipe on the touchpad instead of bringing up a power wheel. You can just swipe in the direction, like, okay, I know to select this power, I need to swipe over here, and then I can hit L1 to activate.
So you can do that blindly without pulling up some sort of interface.
Cool. And that worked pretty well.
Is that our first real taste of the swiping on the controller?
Yeah, I think so.
It's the only thing we've
Pretty
seen.
much, yeah.
Yeah.
Brad, you said you had some.
I really would just add a little bit to what he said. I mean, that they definitely don't go as far as to like create the whole big area like Far Cry 3 would, for instance, you know, that you can roam around in. My sense is that you're still loading into discrete missions, but they are a little bit more rounded and not just straight paths through corridors.
Yeah. Give you any sense of where this figures into the fiction?
No.
Well, they've said before. I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't
it's
remember
after. It's like 20-ish years. after.
You're in a Berlin-esque city that has a wall between the Helgast and the.
But so it is not like just picking up the story of Killzone 3.
No, it doesn't look like it. You're playing as a different character. It's a whole different thing. I thought that looked pretty interesting, and we took a look at Infamous, and I think that looks really good.
Excellent. Patrick, highlights from today?
We talked to Dennis Dyack.
Yes.
Alex and I went and checked out Shadows of the Eternals, and then also, which actually was playable for as much as that thing is playable.
It was walk-aroundable.
Yeah, like their proof of concept, which I think most of that video is. There's video of that whole thing out there, but they were running it on a PC. There was a PC that was connected to a laptop that was only functioning as a monitor because they were showing it just like in a hotel lobby,
restaurant, basically.
And so before we get to Dennis Dyack, but like the game looks gorgeous. Like it's running on like one of the almost the newest version of Crytek, or CryEngine. It looks like a next-gen high-res Eternal Darkness, and as someone that really liked what they've played of Eternal Darkness, like that sounds like an awesome thing for anyone that liked that game. The Dennis Dyack part was really interesting. It's hard to say, like, you can only kind of take what you get at face value with like the 20 minutes we spent talking with him after the demo. But he seemed like really humble, apologetic. Like some of the stuff he was saying was like, "Hey, how do you feel with the last couple of weeks?" And his first thing was, "I need PR. I'm bad at it."
Yeah.
And like a number of times, was talking about.
You gotta take it off. We might have a secret final guest.
Secret guest.
What?
All right, go.
Good secret guest.
A number of times was saying he had a business partner that was with him. Was like, he's handling the management stuff. I'm handling the design. Not involved with that anymore. Because we talked, in like sort of like vague ways, talked about like the Kotaku article, like the obstacles they had with their funding.
Sure.
And they seem to acknowledge a lot of that stuff and say, "Yo, we fucked it up.
I mean, if nothing else, that seems like a step in the right direction for Dennis Dyack, as far as if he's gonna make realistic attempts to try and rehabilitate the image.
Yeah, I mean, like one of the questions I asked him was like, what would 2013 Dennis Dyack tell to 2006 Dennis Dyack, and he was just like, shut up. You know, like he was pretty blunt about that sort of stuff, and it would be super easy to be cynical about all of it. You know, like that. He's out here acting humble, acting this way because obviously he's come in hat in hand, please hand over some money so we can build this game. But the part they had did look really cool. You know, I think a lot of us have met Dennis Dyack. Like, he does usually come across as like, he may be a horrible manager, he may be a bad boss, but like, he does usually come across as a guy that like is genuine and passionate.
Yeah.
You should go into all of that with like the same caveats that we've talked about before in terms of like whether you give him your money.
Yeah.
But during that half an hour we spent, like, it was like, man, like, I want this to happen. Like I want all of this to be true.
You guys were saying that like what they were showing looked interesting.
Yeah.
It's a good demo. Like,
Yeah.
it's a good proof of concept. You know,
Yeah,
that kind of
like I
stuff
want I don't want all of the other stuff to be true. I would like it that just you want to make a spiritual successor to Eternal Darkness on CryEngine. Like, on its face, that sounds great. So, I mean, the interview's up on the site. Like, people can kind of get a sense of his tone, which is pretty consistent throughout, of being like apologetic, attempting to be humble.
It was just this shade of weird in the sense that, like, they had very clearly talked a lot about how much they wanted to talk about their community's involvement. You know, like, they just kept talking about the community involvement and how excited they were and how this, you know, they wanted all these contributions from their community, and it was to the point of rehearsed where it just came off a little weird.
Well, the split for me was that, you know, they had raised about $300,000. They were asking for, I think, $1.3 million.
Yes.
And the narrative they were trying to push was, yeah, we didn't get all these contributions. We kind of ran into a brick wall, specifically because of like the allegations regarding X-Men Destiny, and I think that got a lot of people nervous about contributing to a Kickstarter. So they were trying to push this idea that, well, we have this really enthusiastic community. Like, look how enthusiastic they are. Like, go to our message boards. You'll see, like, it's crazy how excited they are. Trying to push against, like, the idea that, well, people don't really trust us. And so we'll see. But
I believe that he believes he's changed.
Yeah,
and
I feel like that's the best way to look at it, is like, like the like. He believes it. We
won't know till, you know, kind of the rubber meets the road, right?
Exactly.
Exactly.
So I checked out that. The interview's up on the site. And then the other thing that was really interesting that I checked out was Outlast, which is so it's a horror game that was previously just a PC thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think the developers Red Barrels. It's a bunch of ex-Ubisoft guys primarily. Essentially, they played Amnesia and said, why don't we make like a bigger budget version of that? Now, again, it's not a AAA game. Like, it's a pretty small scale thing. But you're a photojournalist that's going to an asylum. The only thing you have to look around is the night vision on your camera. You have no way to fight the enemies that you find around you. Like Amnesia, when you are spotted, you just run, and you are trying to hide in lockers. You are trying to get to the next exit. In this game, again, like the Amnesia influence, like anyone that's played the game, like, is super present. Like, instead of managing like a lantern, you are managing the batteries on a camera.
Right.
But the visuals are like just so far and away above like anything that Amnesia was capable of, that it makes for something pretty interesting. And just, you know, I'm liking this new, like, horror games without combat. I find extremely fascinating. So, like, if there is any game for a bunch of developers to rip off, like, a couple of years later, Amnesia is totally the game. So it's certainly one to watch. Like, it's on the show floor with headphones on. Like, it managed to get me like 2 or 3 times, which is like super impressive, given that, like, so where that game is set up is like right near like that big stage where they are doing stage shows like every day, and like in the middle of like Beyond Two Souls, like, I threw up the controller very briefly. Like, it was a jump scare, so it was cheap.
Yeah.
But like, it's effective. It looks great.
The monsters are fucking scary.
The monsters are scary. It feels a lot like playing a video game version of like if anyone that's watching like the movies Wreck or Quarantine is like the American remake of that. Like, it is you walking down hallways with night vision cameras and weird shitting going on, and like, yeah, it was right up my alley.
Running for your fucking
really,
life. Yeah.
Really enjoyed that. So I talked to those.
That sounds like a Klepek special to me.
It is, yeah. So I talked to those guys, and then there'll be an interview up on the site sometime tomorrow when I get around to putting that up. But yeah, and then although I played Crimson Dragon, which is also pretty cool.
How much like Panzer Dragoon is that?
It's fucking Panzer Dragoon.
That's great.
Okay.
Terrific.
But like it was weird because that game was a 360 game, was a Kinect front-facing game that was like, look, Japan loves Kinect, even though it doesn't work in any of their apartments.
Yeah.
And so when you step up to the kiosk, they've got the the splash screen. You hit A, and the first thing that comes up is like, we would like to thank all of our fans for allowing us to add full controller support to this game, which like sends a really weird message about that game.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard a lot of really bad things about how they've been treated by Microsoft over the course of the development, and that message seems to encapsulate like, we didn't want to make this with Kinect. Like, thank you. So it was a little bit
You
weird.
didn't want to be Layer 2.
Yeah, so the Kinect support is still going to be in there. Like, in it says, like, hey, Kinect and multiplayer is coming later. Multiplayer for a game like that actually could be super cool.
Wow, yeah.
Like, if you think about how, I'm not sure how they would handle that because those games are on rails.
Right.
But maybe it would be like where, like, the dragons are on rails and you're, like, I think are some interesting ideas for how they could handle that.
Yeah.
And they did make the Kinect stuff may not be full, like, you're a dragon again, but hey, if you're looking for,
I imagine the Kinect stuff would just be like Child of Eden or something like that.
Yes,
for
or
a
at the
game
very
like
least,
that,
like switching
you know?
weapons.
Right.
The game also has like a loot system. Like there's some cool stuff happening there. And at the end of the day, it's a sequel to Panzer Dragoon running on like a next gen system, and like that's
pretty great.
That's enough for me. So those are definitely my highlights for the day.
Awesome.
Cool. Well,
would you?
Brad's been gone for a while here. I talked about the Ubisoft stuff. That was
Yeah.
that was the thrust of my stuff for today. So
I thought I saw Brad a second ago. Maybe we can
He
figure
wandered
out
into the bathroom.
Yeah, maybe I can figure out what's going on.
I think we are either way at our time limit for tonight.
Is there any anything big that you guys are going to see tomorrow that you guys are excited about?
Excited about or just big?
Either.
I'm seeing Rise tomorrow and Forza.
I'm seeing let me look here.
And The Witness. I'm going to go see The Witness for the first time.
Okay, awesome.
Have fun.
Curious to see what you think. Like, you'll see the full visual fidelity, tons of time spent on art versus like the version we saw, which was just like
very stripped down, abstract.
Here are the puzzles.
Yeah.
Brad is back by himself.
Yeah, that ship sailed.
Okay.
All right. Then we're going to call this a show.
All right. Great.
I want to thank all of our awesome guests tonight: Jonathan Blow, Cliff Blazinski, the entire Respawn team, Eric and Drake from Harmonix,
Brad Muir.
Who else is in the room?
Who else was here?
We should thank
who bought our beer.
Peter Bartholow.
Thanks to Peter
for
Bartholow
Skullgirls team for buying a bunch of beer.
for these beers,
delivering
for all-
some decent beer.
for all the empties that are now scattered around the room, and to our production team, to Andy, Joey, and Vinny for making this ridiculousness possible. That's it for night 2 here, E3 2013 Giant Bomb After Hours. We'll be back tomorrow night one more time, more guests, more shenanigans. So come back tomorrow night to see the dramatic conclusion to E3 2013. We'll see you guys then.